What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to a Tuesday, our first Tuesday show, the first Tuesday of House Divided. I'm Geoff Ketchum. That is Chad Hastings.
What's up, Ketch?
You're technically in the hatch today, right?
No, still in Cisco, Texas. We're out in West Texas.
That's right.
About 50 miles from Abilene. Ketchum playing a little injured today. Hand injury. I don't know if you can see the bandage right there. Cut my hand on some tin today. Got up on top of a tin roof to rip some stuff off. I watched the sunrise from on top of a barn, which is about the most country thing I could think of. So, yeah, I'm good though. I got movement. I got full flexibility. I'm also testing an actual A&M shirt today. So at the old radio job, I got one a week. So do we have a similar rule for Orangebloods Live? Is it one a week? Is it none? Is it
no.
I have to change? Do we have any of that?
I am not. It's not my job to dress you.
Okay. All right. Excellent. So the Aggie ring did not go on the finger today. It's back there by the jug. But it is Johnny Manziel documentary day. I'm excited about that. That's why I wore the shirt. It's also Hard Knocks Day. If you're a Johnny hater or you don't care about the Aggies, the Hard Knocks debut, I believe, is tonight at 9 Central. That's exciting with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. So I'm excited about both of those. We also have all kinds of Colin Simmons stuff to get in because recruiting never dies.
That is going to dominate the show today, just so you know.
Ever. Recruiting never dies. Plus, Ketch, the Pac-12 has whittled down to closing time at a bad ladies' night. It's down to Beavers and Cougars. That's all you got. You're just Beavers and Cougars. That's it.
Did I ever tell you that Reggie Tongue played at Oregon State? Which means that Reggie Tongue's a Beaver?
Yeah, that's good. That's excellent. I'm glad that my Beaver joke could transition to yours. It felt like a bridge to your joke.
Reggie Tongue, my all-time favorite Oregon State player. He's a Beaver.
Great. Hey, by the way, the fact that in our lifetime, you and I have lived through things like the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC East, the Atlanta Braves in the NL West. But is there anything more convoluted on earth than the idea of Cal and Stanford being in the Atlantic Coast Conference? Is there anything sports has thought of that's dumber than that geographically?
I mean, if we sit here long enough, right, there may be an NFL team in London one day. And Is that AFC East?
Right. Unbelievable.
Because they're not, because it's all about perspective. If we have an NFL team in London, they're not Eastern Europe. So would you put them in the West? I don't know.
It's going to have to be that, though. You're right. It'll have to go to another continent to get dumber than what we might be about to see.
Maybe like there was an Alaskan team in the SEC or something. I don't know.
There really should be an Anchorage team in the SEC. Georgia at Anchorage would be excellent.
Let me ask you this. You're a Florida State trustee, and the ACC commissioner calls to let you know, hey, Cal and Stanford, Jack.
Hey, let me tell you what. What do they call those, lead balloons? Is that what they lands like a lead balloon? He's like, it'd be like, no, I didn't ask you for schools that I respect. I asked you for a bag of money. Do they have a bag of money?
Wait, those two things are different.
Money. Right, again, it's Johnny Manziel documentary day. Can I do that? Money. Even though that's not what the Johnny thing was, everybody thought it was money. Come on.
It wasn't money?
No, it was Drake, if I'm not mistaken. It was a Drake reference, and it was supposed to, what was it? It was supposed to be about like you're what is it? You're living the fine life, or you're doing something with the fine things. It wasn't actually money, but it looked like that. It had the look.
Okay. Hey, did you watch am I dealing with a Chad Hastings that has seen the Manziel doc?
Oh, no. Because if I had, I'd look like a 10-year-old that just opened all his presents. I have not seen it yet. I'm an hour and 12 minutes. That's what I got. I haven't watched a second of it. So I got an hour and 12 to go. My parents and I are going to sit in here like three crazy Aggies and watch it later on.
Okay, that is both sweet and something else at the same time. I don't know what adjective that is.
That's the word you're looking for. Cultish.
We're going to talk some Colin Simmons in a second because I really got to set up like how it happened, what I did. We are, 50 hours away from his announcement.
Yeah, 40. Yeah, exactly. You're right.
So FYI on the countdown, should we get a Colin Simmons clock? Like, when we go to break and it's like the 2-minute countdown, I feel like we should just have a Colin Simmons clock running on the channel.
I'm a huge fan of the clock countdown. I've seen it twice in a concert environment where I thought it worked really well. Taylor Swift on the Eras Tour ran a clock at the end.
Wait, did you go see Taylor Swift?
Oh, yes. I took my daughter to see Taylor. Absolutely.
Oh!
Yes, back in April. I took the Swiftie daughter to see it. I had to watch it for myself. And Taylor starts a clock about 2 minutes out. And Ketch, I'm telling you, the energy in that place as all those teenagers are trying to get used to the fact that Taylor's going to hit the stage. My kid's crying before she's even out there. The clock was brilliant.
So, look, people are going to get mad at me if I allow, like, we're literally on the precipice of a Colin Simmons led segment.
Yes.
If I want to talk Taylor Swift with you.
No, we can do that another time. We'll do you let me know we'll crap bag it another time. We can talk Taylor. It happened all the way back in April. So I
don't care when it happened.
We'll do that.
I want to know about the Hastings Taylor Swift experience.
Okay.
In my mind, I remember when it came through the Metroplex and that was at Jerry World, right?
We hit NRG. We hit NRG.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Well, regardless, I can remember seeing all of the various Instagram shorts and stuff that popped up from people who were. What's your Taylor Swift go-to song?
Nobody, No Crime.
Okay.
Because I'm a sicko.
I'm a blank space guy. Personally.
Blank space is good. I'm thanks to my daughter, I go a little deeper track, and the one about somebody killing somebody, it's kind of like it's her Goodbye Earl. It's her Goodbye Earl, so that's where I go.
All right. So last night, Colin Simmons.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, every once in a while, I'm not real good at I used to work with this guy, David Garvin, who used to live in Austin. I don't think David Garvin lives in Austin anymore. David, if you're out there, shout out to David Garvin. But when I first got into the internet business, David was sensational at the tees. David would reach out to Corey Redding and you'd see Corey Redding update Monday night. And sometimes you'd click on it and it would be nothing else other than tried to reach out to Corey Redding. His mom answered the phone. She let me know that he's at the movies. I'll try to reach him later.
Yeah, that's great.
Like that would be the update.
That's the update. Hey, sometimes in the past, when we'll set up a guest, the guest will say, "And there's not much to update." I'm like, right, but you saying that is technically an update.
And technically, where David Garvin was right, who else is letting you know that Corey Redding's at the movie theater?
Yeah, it is theater of the mind, both literally and figuratively. Then you can imagine him going to the theater.
It literally is the latest thing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that he was. So anyway, I've never quite been that type of reporter.
Uh-huh.
I wrote a column about Colin Simmons on the night before. So last night, it was pretty late. It was like 9:00. And I just was like, you know what? We're 3 days away. I need to I need to check in with my sourcing and see what's up.
So you reached out, to be fair here. You reached out just to kind of see where everything was.
I didn't expect to write an essay on the developments of college. It was as innocent as like checking with a source can be.
Right.
But I noticed, and I told Anwar this when I joined him earlier, I'm texting back and forth. It's texting. It's hard to read intent and tone when you're reading script. So my interpretation of what I was reading was that there was a tone change. But I don't know that my source would describe it at that. This is just my interpretation.
And this is a Texas source, to be fair.
Yes.
Okay.
But for the first time in what I felt like our back and forths have looked like, it sounded to me like my source was saying, like, letting me know, you know what, LSU might happen on Thursday for Colin Simmons. He didn't say that.
Yeah.
The official position is, I think a lot of people are guessing. I don't know that Texas knows specifically. I don't think LSU knows specifically.
Do you think Colin has cooked up a coin flip on Thursday? To where
no, but I think Colin Simmons isn't naive, and he realizes Colin Simmons calls one of the coaching staffs and says definitively, Coach, I am committing to you on Thursday. It will get out. There are sewing circles, blush at coaches' inability to keep their mouths shut.
This I know.
So my source, and the funny thing is, he basically said a lot of things that he's already said before. I've been saying for a month when it looked like Texas was going to get Colin Simmons. And by the way, feel free to get your super chats in. We'll go right to them if you have them. We will be super interactive today. So if you've got your Colin Simmons questions, we'll dive into them. Okay. By the way, this is funny.
Yes. By Friday, we expect to see a recruiting flashback video on the Simmons recruitment. Thanks in advance. Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, no, I knew you would like that.
Yeah, that's good.
As soon as I saw that, I was like, Chad's going to chuckle.
And I expect you to cook one up for Johnny Manziel at some point so we can go back to that recruitment. I'd like for you to pull some Kerrville Tivy film if you could.
I sat next to Johnny Manziel at DKR during his senior year when he was a prospect. Watched him the whole time.
Nice.
Never knowing, well, this will one day be Johnny Manziel. I was like,
was he rocking burnt orange?
I don't remember. He just had the big Johnny Manziel name tag on.
Right.
And we were like 20 feet away from each other. And I remember at the time just like thinking, is Texas really recruiting Johnny Manziel? Because it really wasn't a thing. So anyway.
Right, I got you. Okay. I got us off topic and I apologize.
It's okay.
It was an Aggie thing. I'll get a bad rep for that.
It's okay.
Okay. So you reach out and
hold on. I'll pick it back up.
Okay.
Because I know where I am. So there wasn't a whole lot that was said in my update last night that was different. I tried to provide as much context as humanly possible. Back when it looked like Colin Simmons was going to commit to Texas hard. Look, Colin Simmons committed to Texas behind the scenes like a silent commitment. If those things can ever mean anything at all, it was absolutely conveyed. This is where I'm coming. And there were weeks were going by where the anticipation in July was at first week, second week, at some point in July, Colin Simmons is going to commit. I was reporting that Colin Simmons was going to commit. At the same time, this has been going on for 6 weeks. I've been telling people, my sources are telling me, don't get wrapped up in what happens with this early commitment. That the recruitment is going to come down to November and December. And my sourcing doesn't believe that anything that happens before November and December really matters. That from an NIL perspective, from a living with what you think your decision is going to be and how far away you're going to be from your family and all of these various things, that is when the decision would be made. For 6 weeks, I feel like people have been ignoring me. Hey guys, if Colin Simmons jumps out of a bag that's in a box that's inside the red what is the thing at Cowboy Stadium whenever the
Salvation Army?
Yes.
Yeah.
If he comes out of the Salvation Army jar,
yeah,
in a bag, in a box, and he commits to Texas, I'm trying to tell people, don't get too excited if Colin Simmons commits to Texas. People have just ignored that for 6 weeks. Yesterday, when I said, you know what, it might be 50-50, and there actually is a decent chance that he would announce to LSU on Thursday. However, my sources are saying the recruitment starts in November and December, and that's the only thing that matters. People are like, oh, there he goes. There he goes. He's hedging his bets. He's, trying to kick the can down the road. Like, everybody's interpretation of what that means. Your excuse making, all of these things, they've kind of been thrown into my face a little bit. And it's like, guys, I literally didn't say anything in this update that I haven't said for 6 weeks. The only difference is, for the first time in 6 weeks, the possibility of him choosing LSU on Thursday has become a real possibility. And one of my sources even described it as, he would rate the odds of Texas landing Colin Simmons in January or December at 70-30. Matter of fact, Blake, put the text exchange up on the screen that I sent you earlier today. Because
wow, this is insider stuff.
Because for a while, Chad, I was trying to get my source to give me a percentage, and my source was ignoring the shit out of me. I don't know if he knows the 85% story with Kyler Murray so well that he's like, I don't do percentages because, Ketch, I know how you do percentages, and it has haunted you for a decade. So I told him, I have reported 70-30 to Texas because 60-40 feels like a coin flip. But it sounds like it's more of a coin flip for Thursday than 70-30. But it might be 70-30 overall when we project to December, January. The source said exactly. And then, as you can see, the source comes out definitively and says, I think 70% chance that he eventually comes to Texas. But, I mean, that is as transparent as it gets.
I like that.
That's the exchange that took place.
See, for years, only I got to see that text. Sometimes you would actually turn the phone on, I could see it. You're like, hey, look at that. Now everybody's getting to see that. Fantastic.
So that's what we do here on House Divided. We show the receipts, right? By the way, Luke, I will get to you here in just a second. Luke. You know what? No. You know what? Luke 666.
Nice. The devil's money.
Chad looks better on radio.
Wow. Glad you're still doing this. Just wanted to wish you all the best from Pennsylvania.
Shout
You're my
out.
link back home.
Love that.
The last part is very nice. The Chad looks better on radio. How dare you? Now, you're not wrong, but how dare you? Yeah, face for radio and all that. I've been told I sound taller when people meet me. And then what was the other one? There's something. Yeah, I don't know that there's ever like an impressed look on people's face when they actually see what I look like.
I think you're a handsome son of a gun.
Well, I appreciate it.
But then again, I like you so much. I lured you into doing this enterprise with me.
Yes, you did. That's true.
So clearly because the pretty people rule.
The pretty people rule is always important. You at least thought I was somewhat pretty.
Yeah. I don't want to do a show with, a hound.
At least I'm not hideous to you. Yes. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it. Otherwise, you'd have me turn off. You'd have me turn off the video, and you would just stare at me from 8th grade. That's what you do.
Yes, because that makes me look ugly just in partnership.
Look at that. Look at that beautiful mullet, huh? Huh? Come on. That's what you're talking about.
That was Andre Agassi level mullet flow.
The tan, the mullet, and I'd shave way too high up here. Sexy. Sexy.
Lawrence from Office Space action going on.
Yep. Okay, and by the way, Ketch, I want you to know that my sourcing and my reporting says that Colin Simmons wants this to be such a surprise on Thursday. He went to see Oppenheimer and Barrie and loves them both. That's how he just wants to please play in all sides. He loves them both.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm all about Barbenheimer.
He's a Barbenheimer guy.
So here we are. It's Tuesday. Like I said, we're less than 50 hours away from when he's going to announce his decision, which, oh, by the way, if you're watching on the show right now, we won't be broadcasting his announcement because that's going to be on another channel. But as soon as he announces, we're going to be doing the show in the middle of it. So the final hour of our show on Thursday is either going to be, we're going to party like Brian Jones singing Prince 1999 on a cruise.
That was a good party.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was a good party.
You and I may have just referenced something that even Brian doesn't remember, but I remember those promos.
Yeah, Brian probably doesn't remember that. He was slightly lit during
There was a time on 1300 back in the day when him doing Prince 1999 felt like a piece of audio that played once an hour.
Yeah, and when you say cruise, that was like a town lake cruise.
Oh, was it?
Oh, yeah, it wasn't like a cruise. They were on
he did it on the ocean.
No, they were on a boat on Town Lake, and he was screaming Prince to all the people on Town Lake.
That just made the story better. I thought it was at high sea where anything goes.
No.
Instead, it was Town Lake where if you're Brian Jones, still anything goes.
Right.
Or it'll either be that or it'll be like people, like the stock exchange crash that led us into the Great Depression and people are jumping from buildings. Although I saw a documentary one time that said people weren't jumping off of buildings, that was kind of urban legend, but Texas fans will jump off some metaphorical tall buildings when they lose recruiting battles.
Yeah, I saw something on the chat earlier about this is where our 2024 class starts to die, RIP. And I'm like, whoa, easy, calm down.
So I'm going to let you ping me with questions. I'm just going to say this.
Okay.
The feeling, LSU is this kid's first love. That needs to be understood.
Yep.
There's a reason why they thought that that LSU was the team to beat for much of this year. Texas is like that new girl that you've dated after your initial first love, and they're in a lot of ways better for you, right? Like you're not fighting because you broke up with your first love for some reason. It's all of these things that are really quality and positive, and yet there's a part of you that longs for that first love. You always do that a little bit. First love's like a real thing. So there's an emotional edge that LSU, I think, has. There is a business decision edge that Texas has. And what was conveyed to me from a source that, as far as I know, I've been thinking about it. I don't think this source has ever been wrong. In fact, where I sometimes will screw up is if I can't reach this source, I'll go to a different source, and that different source will screw up. And then I'll go back to this source, and that source will say, hey, I never said that, at which point I'll have to shrug my shoulders and go, you're right. You didn't say that.
Wow.
I went to some other source. I cheated on you and went to another source, and I used that source's information, and they ended up being wrong. I don't think the source has ever been wrong.
Wow.
And this source is like, look, these things come down to business decisions ultimately, typically. And on the NIL front, it doesn't sound like LSU is super competitive with where Texas, in a world where he comes to Texas, I think the NIL opportunities trump those that are available to him in Baton Rouge. At this moment, that does not matter. At this moment in August, there's a good chance on Thursday that Colin Simmons is going to make a decision, and he's not going to make it with hey, how might NIL change my life in the next 12 months?
Mm-hmm.
Is my mom going to have to keep working? Can I buy her a house? Is she, all these things that when guys come into money, like how does it change?
Either of these two schools can help him there and take care of that, right?
Yes.
It's
but
not
the
like
feeling is that one has a substantial advantage.
Okay. If one needs to hit any kind of panic button or if one needs to really flex, I think we all know which one that is.
And I think, in a world where we're not all naive, some of these conversations have already taken place. I think they probably know that. I heard that when he went to LSU, NIL was brought up to him and they showed him like, this is what Angel Reese is doing and this is what so-and-so is doing. But like their football players aren't the number one athletes in NIL at LSU right now. At Texas, the number one athletes at Texas NIL-wise are football players. There are guys, I don't know what Quinn Ewers is making, but a lot of these guys are making high six figures. And I think there's a feeling that when push comes to shove, when we get to November and December time, and like a real decision, not a commitment, but the ultimate decision has to be made, I get the sense that Texas is very confident that they'll be better at NIL, that there's a proximity thing where if he wants to be as close to his family and his younger brother, that being at Texas is close. It's a 2.5 hour drive versus a 6 hour drive, or getting on a plane and dealing with all of that. So I think Texas feels like it has advantages. I don't know that those advantages are going to play on Thursday, but you'll notice I said, I don't know. People are guessing, and it could be Texas. It could be LSU. I think for Thursday, it might be 50-50. As my text with my source kind of outlined, they have said they're articulating to me that Texas is not going to panic and that they're not really worried about Thursday and that they think this thing will go on into the future months. I can't make people hearing that message believe it. I can't make anybody in this chat say, oh, it's the wolf. Why didn't you say so? The wolf is on this thing. I no longer have to worry about the fact that there's like brain in my car from shooting a guy in the face. It's a Pulp Fiction reference, guys. Didn't really commit a murder. But it happened. It happened in the movie. And so I can't convince people that Texas thinks they got the wolf on their side. All I can do is report it. And then if you start asking me for my opinions on all of this, then we go into all kinds of different directions. I have my reporter cap on right now, and I'm relaying the lay of the land from the perception of sources. And if you think it's all a bunch of BS, like I can't control that. All I can do is tell you what I know and what I think I know. And not much more than that at this point.
Okay. So we're going over Colin Simmons stuff. If you're just jumping in, Colin Simmons, again, Thursday, 2:00, right during the show. We're going to be reacting to it immediately. Thanks to all the chats. Get in on the super chat. Follow, subscribe. We're over 16,000 subscribers. We liking subscriber numbers right now, Ketch? You liking what you're seeing? I want them
to keep going up, and they are. But yeah,
yes. We're headed towards 17,000. That is our next big marker.
And so when we get close to 17,000, I'm going to start reaching out to you guys on Facebook one by one.
Yes. Ketch is going to go out on his weird list and not only start hitting us up, he's going to hit some weird all y'all too. So please do that. Get your notifications set up. Get all that done. So Colin Simmons, Thursday at 2. So Ketch, as you were talking, I just jotted down a couple questions. Let's clarify. When you say there's a brother in Duncanville, are we talking brother that's on the football team just a year or two away in age? Or are we talking like a single-digit aged brother?
I'm not sure the exact age of his younger brother. I think it may be somewhere. He's a brother with some special needs.
I got you. Okay. All right. So there you go. So not just a stereotypical brother situation.
It's a special circumstance situation. So that when you hear Colin Simmons say that his brother means everything to him, and that being close to him matters.
Sure.
I mean, I've had sources that have told me the key to getting Colin Simmons' commitment is to become the favorite school of his brother. That
I see. Right.
If the brother loves the school,
if the kid loves the colors, and if the kid goes and visits and just gets sunk into it, then that may be it.
Yeah. And I think everybody understands that, like, the family really means something to him. And I think that Texas feels like LSU can't get closer to Duncanville. It is always going to be 6 hours away.
Right. Oh, no, that's a trip. Yeah, there's no doubt.
And go ahead.
Okay, so in terms of the some of the football X's and O's stuff, somebody jumped in the chat and said something to the effect of, if I'm a badass DN, rush DN, I'd go to LSU right now, and Texas has to change the narrative on all of that. In reading some of y'all's reporting on this, I'm reading the notion that Pete Kwiatkowski doesn't exactly have the reputation of putting the highest level badasses into the NFL, and maybe LSU is using that against him. Do you think that kind of thing really matters to Simmons?
I think it's a data point. I mean, if we make a pros and cons list, not all pros and cons are the same, right? I'm going to pay you $1 million, right? Or other pro, it's pretty outside my window, right? I mean, a lot of pros, but they're always equal. And I think that that might be one that matters. I know that when he was at LSU, one of the things I heard was that, and this came from both LSU sourcing and Texas sourcing, that they really went after Texas's lack of NFL drafted players. I think the number since 2014 is 80-28 advantage of LSU versus Texas.
Wow.
It's crazy to think about.
Yeah. I haven't looked at totals or defense. I looked at an offensive number recently, and it was a big advantage LSU there as well. So I'm not surprised the total number is as well.
And now look, Texas fans and coaches, right? I mean, how do you have to, like, have an answer for some of this stuff? And I think Texas would say, well, look at Kwiatkowski at what he did at Washington. They were producing NFL players left and right off of his defenses there. And I think the Texas coaches or people would then turn around and say, and hey, yes, LSU has produced 80 NFL draft prospects since 2014. But you know what? This staff didn't produce the 80. The staff, that's not them. They didn't do that.
Right.
And here's another pro con. We talked about this yesterday on the show. If he goes to Texas, he literally knows who's going to be coaching him. If he picks LSU on Thursday, he's committing to LSU without literally knowing who he will be spending the majority of his time with as a coach while he's on campus. Doesn't know that the guy that just left had only been there for a couple of months.
Yeah. So that's another reason I asked, because think about, are you really going to be making that argument hard and heavy right now? If you're LSU, it's like, well, that guy's not sending a bunch of guys to the pros. And the response could be, hey, you can't even tell me who's going to be helping me with my stance. You have no idea who this is right now, and 2 guys have left. The 2 guys I got hooked, that I got a relationship with, they left. So to me, that's got to matter. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, Ketch, that I thought was interesting was the clarity discussion. That there's a thought out there that there could be a massive amount of clarity for the loser on Thursday. Whoever doesn't hear their name on Thursday will come out of it with a massive hunk of clarity. So I want you to walk through both versions of that for everybody right now. If it's Texas, what's the clarity they get? If it's LSU, what's the clarity they get? And how does each proceed at that point?
This is where I'm taking my reporter cap off.
Okay.
And I'm putting my cynical jackass hat on.
Oh, I love the cynical jackass hat.
If we live in a world where NIL and the dollars matter, and I know there's a romantic notion that a lot of these kids are picking their colleges off of the campus and the education and the towns, and to some extent there's a good possibility that he may literally make a decision off the town. Like, that could happen. But there is a feeling that ultimately, we just had this conversation, that if money matters, and it does, and the amount of money matters, and I think it always does, I think a Colin Simmons commitment to LSU causes Rome to burn in Austin, people are going to freak out. And I think if you're Texas, you can say, well, we're already, we already have a strong NIL package. It doesn't need to be altered. What are we really doing? Are we bidding against ourselves here? Because LSU, they're not going to match what we're going to be able to do. He's not going to have a Lamborghini dealership deal in Baton Rouge. That's an Austin thing, right? You can say that all you want to. But as Rome starts to burn, and people are putting the memes of the little guy and the flames, the dog in the burning house where he's like, everything's fine. You can't help but to think it increases your negotiating leverage. I don't think Colin Simmons is doing this. Full transparency. But what I do think happens that if Colin Simmons does commit to LSU, an unintended consequence of that is that it will make Texas more anxious and motivated than ever before that they, by any means necessary, you have to get Colin Simmons.
Yeah, buttons will get pressed, calls will be made, money will be found.
And it just from a sense of easy math, if somebody offers you $500,000 and another person offers you $1 million and your goal is to get $1.5 million, who's most likely to give you 1.5?
Right. Yeah.
Mr. 500,000 or Mr. 1 million?
So basically then on the other side of things, if I'm LSU and Thursday I find out he goes burnt orange, at least with the hat for now, then you know what the bar is. You know what the goal is, right?
It's like, man, he loves us. He loves Baton Rouge. He's picking Texas. Yes, they also know. And I think between the two, one is incredibly more motivated. Texas is way more motivated to get this done than LSU. He might be really important to LSU. He's not as important to LSU as he is to Texas. And I think, again, I'm not telling you that these guys are, that the Simmons family is robbing a bank or anything like that, that this is all financially motivated. What I'm telling you is that Texas feels like it has an NIL edge. And that might not be enough on Thursday. So if your NIL edge isn't enough on Thursday, do you raise the limits of what your NIL budget is? Is suddenly, do you go back to the drawing board and say, okay, well, we didn't want to do, we didn't want him to have a Ferrari dealership and a Lamborghini dealership, but to hell with it. Let's get Tesla in there. He can have every car dealership in town.
Right.
So I think, again, the unintended consequence of this is there's a very good chance that Texas will feel more urgency to need to get something done. And from a financial standpoint, it may mean that NIL options improve from their already very nice place.
Here's a slightly different theory here on NIL, because obviously there's NIL pure bag of money. There's NIL, what can you do with your money? If I'm Texas and he picks LSU on Thursday, I might also get creative about how to make my NIL money appeal to the emotional side. How do I get my NIL money to make him feel different about my culture or my atmosphere or whatever? Now back to the family, Ketch. If there is a brother with special needs and his thing is, I want my brother at every game and I want him to be comfortable and I want him to feel like it's a badass environment. And what if Texas goes to him and says, hey, your mother, let's say it's a mom and a brother. Let's say that's the two most important people, mom, dad, and brother. Hey, all three of them, we will get them limo, Duncanville to Austin and back every time whenever you need it. Or it's a plane. Somebody said a private jet in the chat. Maybe it is that. Can you use your NIL?
No, it doesn't
to
quite
do that
work
kind
that way.
No, because you got to appeal to his emotions, don't you? If it's about I'm saying if he picks LSU Thursday, and you're telling me it's about he loves it, he just loves the Tigers. Can you use your NIL money to figure out, to help him love the experience?
Oh, man, I think you're buying souls at this point. I mean, And I think that's what the sport has become to a certain extent. And I think it's important to know, while he loves Baton Rouge and LSU, he loves the hell out of Texas and Austin too. It's just different.
Yeah.
When he took his official visit in June, he got completely swept away. Again, he may never admit it. He may never come out and say, yeah, I gave a silent commitment. I was actually privately committed behind the scenes, and I just didn't announce it, and now I changed my mind. But he was swept away by what happened at Texas. There were discussions about commitment dates.
Mm-hmm. So you think they've already done that? Whatever that would be that I'm talking about, it's done.
Well, I think there's some coexistence.
Right. Okay.
Because I don't want to describe it where like he isn't fond of. He talked about the family atmosphere at Texas and how it made him feel. And I heard that there was like some emotions involved. Like he was swept away on his visit to Texas. But he was also swept away on his visit to LSU. That was 10 days ago. So I think that there's a feeling from Texas, I think there are people at Texas that think this commitment date shouldn't even happen. That it's really close. There's still conversations going back and forth with the coaching staffs and the player and the family. Like, this is ongoing. It will continue to ongo up until Thursday, and it will go beyond Thursday. I think people on both sides would probably tell you this probably shouldn't even take place.
On the Thursday decision.
On Thursday.
Right. Okay. So here's a question I've never asked you. This is just to the decision itself. But you know how gender reveals are huge nowadays. Have we had any recruits go gender reveal, like colored powder in the air? You ever had that?
I can't remember having seen it, but it does sound like an easy, like that could be a thing.
Like, what if you filled a balloon over his head with either burnt orange or purple, smoke?
Like confetti.
Confetti, yeah, exactly. The confetti. And then he gets to stand up and either he pokes it with a stick or whatever it is, and it all just falls on top of him. Just, and everybody knows.
That sounds totally badass.
Doesn't it sound great? I mean, that sounds cool. Like somebody in my family, they were going to have the baby, and he did it. They put the little canister of some sort in the car, and he did a burnout. And the color of smoke on the burnout was the gender of the baby.
Borderline white trash excellence.
Oh, not borderline. Take the word borderline out. That is a white trashy thing to do, but it was also badass. Those two things can be the same thing.
It's true. It's
very
true.
White trashy. But at least it was the right kind of car. It was like a Dodge Challenger or something. Right? He didn't do it in a Honda Civic. That would have been silly. He burned out in like a, American muscle car. But anyway, I am interested
God bless
to see.
America.
I am interested to see how Colin Simmons makes this choice on Thursday, and if he's going to make it, a big, massive, huge deal. And then to clarify, Ketch, for the people that maybe haven't followed this, they're just jumping in 2 days before. This is also going to be Colin Simmons and two additional teammates, correct? The running back. Okay.
Who I love and who Texas didn't really try to recruit.
And who supposedly is locked in to say LSU on Thursday.
For most of the last couple of months, I think there was a strong thought that Caden Durham would go to, not only go to Oklahoma. I think there's been thought that one of the reasons why Texas wasn't recruiting Caden Durham, they offered Caden Durham in the spring, but one of the reasons why they weren't really going after him, because he went to Oklahoma like 10 times in the last 12 months. I mean, he practically lived in Norman.
Okay.
And I had a future cast pick for Oklahoma.
But now you think it's
now
LSU.
Flipped it to LSU.
Gotcha.
Chad, I'm going to describe this kid, and you tell me if it sounds like the kind of player that you would recruit, okay?
Okay.
Rush for, I think it was like almost 3,000 yards in Class 6A while dragging Duncanville to its first state championship under a historic head coach and Reginald Samples.
Right.
So he is the best he's the Emmitt Smith of producing running backs at the Class 6A level. He's like Cedric Benson-esque in that he dragged his team to the finish line in a state championship run.
They're not even close without him.
No.
Okay.
He runs a 10-200 meters.
Oh, God.
That's not me saying that at some like country ass track meet where like some random guy's got a stopwatch. It's like Billy Bob got him at a 10-2.
You can always trust Elroy's thumb. Elroy had him at a 10-2.
This guy's running 10-2s at the Texas relays and 10-2s at the state track meet.
So you're telling me he's a badass running back at Duncanville, but he like runs somewhere in the neighborhood of like Marquise Goodwin?
He's faster at this stage of his life than both Marquise Goodwin and Jamal Charles were.
Oh, so a slow kid. Okay, gotcha. Slow on the track.
10-2 as a junior in high school.
Incredible. Okay, gotcha.
Oh, and by the way, he takes trips with Colin Simmons, the number one prospect in the state. They're friends. They're boys. Okay.
They've met. They've met. They like each other.
They travel together.
They're traveling buddies. Okay. So, fair enough.
Warhorse running back who dragged a team to the state championship at the highest level, 10-2, friends with the guy that matters to you the most. I have had Texas fans tell me, well, you know what? He's not as good as the guys that we got. Our coaches didn't even invite him to a junior day. And I've told those people that is not as good of a thing to claim out loud as you think it is.
You're stating facts, but you're not making the point you think you're making.
Yes.
Those are facts, but you're not saying what you think you're saying.
And that's what I would say. Yeah. I think Caden Durham is a borderline 5-star prospect that coaches don't agree with me, but in not recruiting that kid at all, I do think they put themselves at an unintentional disadvantage that could have been avoided.
Oh, love that chat. The 10-2 was wind aided, according to someone on the chat. Ran a 10-7-2 at another meet that same year. Okay. You could try to talk him slow? Is that what you're going to try to do?
Yeah, he ran a 10-7-2, Chad, in February when there were icicles on the stands.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
No, that's how it works.
You know, that reminds me,
you start the year at 10-7, you end the year at 10-2. Guys that end the year at 10-7 start at 11-2. That's how track season works.
That is how track works. Yes, you can't just try to force them into that. By the way, I am reminded we have a couple guests coming up later in the show. One will definitely be getting into Colin Simmons and other recruiting stuff. Cole Patterson, Rivals recruiting analyst, is going to join us. And then, Mr. Ketchum, you reached out and were able to grab one of our favorite guests from back in the day during the Drive radio show. We called him the king of the drive back then. Matt Barrie of ESPN. He's one of my absolute favorites, one of our favorites. And Ketch is going to have some inside info for us on realignment because he is a proud graduate of one of the great party schools, bring your penicillin schools that has ever existed, Arizona State. A new Big 12 member. So we have to ask Matt Barrie, what's it like to go Pac-12, Big 12, and it's a good thing? That's got to be a weird feeling for him today.
Let's do this. We'll take a break. Someone asked in the chat about Texas's number 2 most important prospect. I'll give you that update. We've got buy or sell around the corner. I see super chats coming in. We'll do all of that on the other side of this break. This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the biggest UT football stars of the last decade. Bijan Robinson was a 5-star prospect by Rivals when he signed with the Longhorns, finishing as the nation's number 18 overall prospect, the second best prospect in the state of Arizona, and the number 1 running back in the country, according to Rivals.com. Upon retrospect, it's kind of amazing that former running backs coach Stan Drayton was able to land Robinson when you consider that Ohio State was perceived as a massive leader for much of his recruitment. In fact, on the day he committed, Rivals.com recruiting analyst Adam Gorney told Orangebloods, quote, even after the Atlanta 5-star challenge, it almost felt like Ohio State was the foregone winner, Gorney said that day. But as it got closer, I think the realization that he would basically be going across the country to play football kind of set in. He really, really liked Texas and USC a lot, had connections to both schools, liked the staffs, and how they would use him, and wound up finding a school closer to home that he was very happy with. It wasn't until Robinson visited Texas on an unofficial visit for the spring game in April that Texas began to make it surge. By the time June rolled around, a couple of months later, the Longhorns had emerged as a team to beat in his recruitment. Robinson was a part of a 2020 recruiting class that finished 14th in the nation that year in the Rivals.com rankings, and what turned out to be the final full recruiting class for Tom Herman. A few years later, and there's not a ton of meat on the bone with respects to the elite prospects from that year outside of Robinson. Jake Majors and Jaron Thompson remain as a few of the higher ranked players in that class, but it's actually two of the lower ranked prospects in the class, Jahdae Barron and Jalen Ford, that have made the biggest impact as the class begins to wrap up its contribution to the Texas football program.
Texas fans, order your number 7 Falcons jersey right now. Get your Bijan Robinson gear ready. A lot of Texas fans becoming black and red NFL fans thanks to Bijan. That high school footage is kind of impressive from Bijan, Ketch. Not that I thought it wouldn't be, but that had to be rough facing Bijan Robinson as a high school like linebacker, trying to get out to that edge before Bijan does.
By the way, just real quick. Okay, chat's working again. A second ago, somebody asked a super chat, and then it disappeared on me. I don't know if Blake still has a super chat. Actually, it looks like there is a pinned thread. Here it is.
There we go. Okay.
With today's wishy-washy recruits, is formerly P11 T11D. Did I have that right?
There's a lot going in on there, yeah.
There's formally. Let's just call him formally. Mr. Formally. With today's wishy-washy recruits, it doesn't seem like a huge deal if he doesn't commit to Texas on Thursday. Nothing's a done deal. P.S. Love the show. Yeah. No, I mean, that's what a lot of people that I talk to think.
Yeah. Well, that's a great super chat to throw in, Ketch, because remember the way it used to be back when you and I were doing a radio show together. Before that, when you started in this business, when the commitment came down, it did not change very much. Rarely was there the commitment, and then a guy would, he would commit and then completely change his mind. And then you certainly didn't have guys that would like commit, open the commitment, and then come back to that original school. You see that happen. So there's just all versions of it now that just didn't used to be that way. Plus with social media and the fact that, a lot of these guys want to take their time, but as they go through it, I mean, things change. Things change at the 11th hour, and that is it's feeling like that's what this could be. One of those that, like you keep saying, Thursday's the beginning, I believe was the title of what I saw today on Orangebloods. Check out orangebloods.com. Get out there. Through today, Ketch, is the sale. Is that sale still going on?
Look at you.
I know how much
remember. I was thinking the same thing. We got to pump this up.
I know how much the sale makes you nervous because it's only $3. $3, right?
It is. What's crazy is when I posted my Colin Simmons article last night, 20 people signed up in like 5 minutes.
There it is.
So look, if you the whole Colin Simmons report, I don't know how many words it is. It's like 1,000. I did 10 bullet points. It's very specific in a lot of ways. If you're not on Orangebloods, you want to check it out. $3 a month for an entire year is about as easy as it gets. Yeah. By the way, yes, I believe that was Harper that said hello.
What's up, Harper?
And the thing is, I don't think there was really a reason for Harper to bark. That wasn't someone was at the door, or that was just, you know what? I haven't barked in a while. Neighborhood, hear me roar.
I feel bad that you and I don't. We need to get acquainted with each other's the current dogs. I know your past dogs. I think you might know my past. I don't think we know the current dogs. Here. We'll do that sometime. We need to have dogs held up to the screen.
No, hold on, Harper. My whistle's not working.
We're whistling up the dog.
Yeah, I'm going to bring Harper into the picture.
Okay.
Harper.
I'm not going to say no to seeing a dog.
Well, Harper's not wanting to come.
Harper's confused because you're not in that chair in this situation. You're not normally calling Harper.
You plotting on me, Dad?
Harper's not stupid.
Oh, come here, Harper. Hop up.
This isn't Harper's first day. Let's see Harper. Oh my! Look at the face. Look at that pretty puppy.
Oh, come
on, Harper. Oh,
thank you, Harpy.
Beautiful, beautiful.
So she knows if Dad calls her, come get some love.
Beautiful. Okay.
Now I have to. Harper. Okay, that's good.
You're German Shepherd.
German Shepherd. Yep.
German Shepherd. That's a beautiful dog. All right, Harper. I appreciate it.
We'll do some others later. There are 3 of them.
I love a dog. I don't baby talk babies near as much as I do dogs. So I'll
when
do that all
you
day.
hear a dog that sounds like it might eat somebody,
that's the one. Yeah,
that is Harper.
Let me just tell you, I can't do it now because my dog's not in this house. When I hold up my dog, it will not look like that, and it won't look that menacing. I promise you. I promise you.
Okay, so we did the Orangebloods thing. We've got buy or sell. Oh, Cole Patterson joins us 20 minutes from Rivals.com. We'll pick back up on Colin Simmons then.
Yes. More Colin Simmons stuff coming up, national recruiting stuff, obviously Texas recruiting stuff. Ketch, why don't you give them a little bit about Mojo Insurance today? Let them know what do I need to know? What do the people need to know about Mojo Insurance?
Chad, you're going to love this. If you go to mojoinsurance.agency, right? The address is right there.
Yeah.
They have a special Orangebloods viewer/member deal that you can take, or you fill out the form. They will find you the cheapest insurance possible with over 50 A-rated carriers.
Nice.
They're going to save you money. It's not that simple.
Are we talking home, auto, life?
All of it.
Boat?
All of it. Insurance.
Motorcycle?
Get all of it.
Jet ski. If I'm Jonathan Taylor, can I get jet ski insurance?
I think the answer to that is yes. And oh, by the way, they do have a QR code that you can use. Yeah, it's right there.
There it is.
And the bottom line is Mojo Insurance is a awesome sponsor and partner with us. And we love them. And it's Jason Sukumel talks about this all the time. He uses Mojo Insurance before they ever became a partner, and they saved him a bunch of money. So, he really is the right guy to give the speech because he has been the guy that way before they ever became a partner saved him money every month and a bunch of it every year. Okay. Real quick, Kobe Black. Somebody asked about Kobe Black.
Okay.
Who's a cornerback out of Waco Conley. He's former Jelani McDonald, who's a freshman at Texas. They're former teammates. He's regarded as a heavy Texas lean. People want to know if there's anything new with Kobe Black. I believe that Texas is sitting really, really well with Kobe Black. But let me just tell you right now, the guy who stands to gain the most from a Colin Simmons commitment to LSU, should that happen, is Kobe Black. Because then he becomes the only uncommitted top 20 player in the state of Texas that the Longhorns would at that point be projected to land. And so if Kobe Black has ever struggled with leverage, let Colin Simmons commit to LSU and suddenly Kobe Black is going to have more leverage than he's ever had in his entire life.
You're saying that phone's going to ring pretty quick if Colin Simmons is rocking some Go Tigers gear?
I mean, he can get on the phone with Sarkisian on Thursday and be like, Coach, I just don't know that I feel love. And there will be 100 dozen roses at the door the next day, letting him know you are loved.
It'll be
we want you.
It'll be a quick call back of, hey, have you seen that picture of Jake Majors in the Lamborghini? Would you like to be in a Lamborghini? We'll call him up for you.
You're superimposing his face onto Jake Majors' body.
Yes.
Coach, is that a white guy's leg? No. Whose face is in that car?
Coach, my neck is not that thick. What is going on?
Why do I look like I should be the starting center? Don't worry about that. Focus on the face and the car.
Man, that's an interesting aspect of it, too. I hadn't thought of it that way. But when you are the biggest of the big and the badass up at the top of the list there, that's interesting where, he would be the one whose phone rings. By the way, Ketch, I haven't asked you this question, and maybe the answer is nobody, which is why Colin Simmons is such a big deal. If whoever Colin Simmons picks on Thursday, who's the next guy each school would call up and say, we love you, we love you? Like, is there an obvious
I don't
guy?
pay enough attention to LSU's overall recruiting.
Okay.
To have the faintest idea, like what's left for them.
So who is it for Texas? Sark turns to his guys and says, hey, make sure this guy knows we love him just in case.
There's nobody at Simmons's position.
Okay.
That's what makes him.
That's why it's that big a deal.
Right. Because look, Kobe Black is a defensive back. He's a cornerback. He's incredibly valuable. Obviously, there's basically a 50-50 chance that guy plays in the NFL. And part of that 50% is potentially he becomes a very highly rated NFL draft prospect when you're rated that high as a high school recruit. But Texas got dudes like that on their campus right now. Right. They've got Malik Muhammad from a year ago. They recruited Derek Williams. They've recruited the secondary very well. You think about Terrence Brooks is on campus right now. Ryan Watts, another one. They don't have edge rushers like Colin Simmons. And These guys come around once every 5 years or so. Like our true 5-star. When people start saying things like he could be K'Lavon Chason or Von Miller, that doesn't get said every year. Right, there's nobody in next year's class at that position that I'm going to be like, he's another Colin Simmons. So the difference is there is no backup for Simmons this year. And there's nobody currently on the roster that's quite him either. So he's just more valuable. He's more valuable. If a 5-star quarterback came along this year, you probably would say, well, we wouldn't make the Arch Manning trade because he's Arch Manning, but we're not going to take a 5-star quarterback this year. It's okay because we're going to get one next year, and we've got 2 on campus right now. We're okay.
Right.
From a positional value standpoint, it can't really be compared to right now.
By the way, as we cross over the top of the hour, we hope you're having a great Tuesday. It is House Divided here on Orangebloods Live. As you can hear, there's a lot of Colin Simmons talk today. We'll have plenty of that. We've got Colt Patterson coming up from Rivals, a recruiting analyst at 120, 220. Matt Barrie from ESPN. We will get to buy or sell. Real quick, Ketch, as we were talking about the football part and the idea that once November comes around and he's going to make that visit to that Florida LSU game, let's think of both sides. By that day, Texas will have played Bama in Tuscaloosa. They will have played Oklahoma, obviously, and they'll have a lot of their season behind them. I'm just looking at the LSU schedule. When he hits that game, LSU will have played Florida State to start the year. They will have played Auburn at home, and they will have played at Alabama. So he will have gotten to see both of his choices play in Tuscaloosa. Just a thought. The very next week is LSU Florida when he has that visit scheduled. So Colin Simmons has a lot to look at. I see a lot of Longhorn fans on the chat saying, got to be this year. We got to get it done. We got to put football in front of him that he likes to see. I would say that's a pretty good argument to make. Texas having a good football season obviously can help here.
That is the elephant in the room, in that my sources will tell me if Texas craps the bed on the field, all this conversation that we're having right now is not going to make for a hill of beans.
Right.
That really to get Collins but if they go 10-2 or 11-1 and they win a Big 12 title this year, that might be the thing that helps seal the deal in addition to the NIL and the proximity and all that stuff. If they don't play well on the field, this won't matter. And a couple of people on Orangebloods have been quick to point out, and it's probably fair when we compare the situations to this with Anthony Hill from a year ago. A&M went 5-7 and really opened the door with what was going on the A&M camp. There were a lot of guys that left A&M after the season was over, but at one point during the season, it felt like everybody was going to leave.
I was going to say, it felt like at one point it was going to be a lot more than it actually was.
So, you're probably not getting that at LSU. They're expected to win almost all of their games this season.
Yep.
But if they go 8-4 and 9-3, the way we talk about maybe Texas could as well, that would be potentially troublesome for them as well, especially in a world where Texas for really the first time in a long time, hits the mark on expectations. Real quick, we're going to do buy or sell. We're at 16,097 subscribers. 16, we're 3 away from 16,100, which is obviously a super epic number. If you're in the chat right now, there's 300 plus watching live. Give us subscribe.
16. Plus, yes.
We're only got, I was looking a second ago. We're only up to 68 likes.
Come on,
people. Come on.
Let's like it. Get that thumb up.
Don't do that. See, that will make them.
What? That's not good. No.
Well, because then they won't want to click on it if you're making it seem like it's a gig'em.
Oh, no, I meant that as a like thumb. Should I do it with my left hand? Like.
I don't know. I wish we could go to YouTube and ask them to replace that icon.
I tell you what, you just say like, and I'll keep my hands down here.
That's fine.
Nobody can see it.
All right. Nobody has subscribed since we started talking about it. So that may have backfired.
It's definitely not that.
Nobody has unsubscribed. So that is good. Let's play buy or sell. We don't have music, but I'll let you go first today.
All right. Buy or sell. Here we go, Mr. Ketchum. It's going to have a little Aggie flair today. I'm going to warn you. Number one, it was Shane Leckler's birthday yesterday. Okay. Buy or sell. Leckler, better college punter than Michael Dixon.
Buy.
All right.
I mean, we're talking about two of the best that have probably ever punted.
No doubt.
But in my mind, Leckler is like, oh.
And by the way, Longhorn fans, I've said it for years. By the end of his run, if he can do some good, impactful punting for a really good team, or at least a team that kind of matters, I think Dixon could actually catch Leckler by the end of his career. I do.
Maybe. I mean,
I think right now Leckler's the greatest punter that ever lived. But I think Dixon has a chance to go get him, but he's got work to do. But right now, Ketch, how about this? Their career punting average in the NFL is exactly the same. Obviously, different time. It's exactly the same right now.
Hey.
Just pointing it out.
Blake just wants to know, did Leckler win a bowl game MVP?
Oh, it's a great question. It is a great question. No, Leckler was on teams that didn't need their punter to be an MVP in a bowl game, but he did not. So it's fair.
When
did
Leckler leave A&M?
What's that?
What was Leckler's last final? Like, when did he graduate from A&M?
Oh, let's see. Leckler would have been, I think he was on the Big 12 championship team in 98.
Oh, God. Does he go that far back?
I think he goes that far back. I'd have to double check the years, but I think that's right.
Conference title is a nice little tiebreaker, too.
That is true. That's good. All right, Ketch. One more and we'll move away from the Aggies. I got to do it, though. Buy or sell the Johnny Manziel play, since the documentary is tonight. The Johnny Manziel play that you would play for the Aliens to explain who he is the spinning, lose the ball, get it back, touchdown throw to Swope in T-Town.
Probably buy.
That's the one, right?
But I also have he had a lot of plays. That's probably the one.
That's the one everybody goes to.
I mean, you tell me. I mean, ultimately, you're asking me, but like, you're probably the better expert. It wasn't the first play that jumped to my mind when I think of Manziel. I sometimes think about the next year when they lose at home to Alabama, but there's a throw and a play he makes to Michael Evans in that game, if I'm not mistaken. It's a long touchdown pass.
Big 90-something yard pass when he just threw it. Yes.
That play sticks out in my mind. But maybe for as much as Evans as anything else. Yep. But like, part of the Manziel story is that he had Mike Evans playing receiver for him, and what they were able to do for each other, can't be understated.
No, I completely agree. The one other play I'd bring up, I was at the Missouri game in 2012 when he got hurt and the stadium went silent, and then he comes back in. He had a play where he scrambled out to the right and back to the left and back to it felt like he ran 5 miles, threw a touchdown pass, and the place just popped like I've never heard it before.
Manziel honk. We get it. We get it. By the way,
documentary's on
tonight, so we'll be able.
Yeah, I want to watch it tonight. Now, have you seen it yet?
No.
You have not. Okay. Well, I
barely have had time to brush my teeth.
I know. And the other thing you have to do, since I do not have HBO with me out here in Cisco, Texas, you need to watch the first episode of Hard Knocks and tell me if there's anything to check out.
Okay. I will.
That's tonight at 9.
You are so far out in the boonies that's where we are.
That's where we are. And I'm not saying it's not just because of being in the boonies. It's just that, the folks haven't paid for all the movie channels out here. They're just, they're keeping it basic.
Fair enough.
Nothing wrong. Okay. Number 3, Ketch. Let's go Cowboys. Buy or sell. Your favorite Dallas Cowboy on this team is Micah Parsons.
Buy. He might be my favorite Dallas Cowboys player.
Uh-oh. You going that far?
Maybe since DeMarcus Ware.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought you were getting really silly for a second.
No,
all right.
Ware and Romo were kind of my guys.
Right.
But I love Micah Parsons.
Okay. Fair enough. All right. Number 4, Ketch. I am going to a piano bar tonight with my parents.
Fun.
Buy or sell. I should keep it simple and just request some Billy Joel.
Sell.
What do I need to do?
Someone else is going to ask for Billy Joel.
So I got to come with something else. I'm in Cisco, Texas. I'm 50 miles from Abilene. What do I request for the piano guy to freak him out? What do we do? Waylon?
That's some Rocket Man.
Merle? You want Rocket Man from Elton? Okay. All right. I
or
bet he's
like,
got some Elton
I'm
John
still
in him.
standing, and like the guy's like, actually, you pick some songs, like if you pick a Jerry Lee Lewis song, they can't help but get up off their feet. And it's like, dun, 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 dun.
Ah, you want to go fast-paced Elton. That's my favorite Elton John song, I'm Still Standing. Maybe I need to do that.
There you go.
I love that song.
I'm just full of ideas.
Well played. All right, and finally, buy or sell, Ketch, from what you're hearing out of Texas practice with Xavier Worthy this year, Biletnikoff finalist minimum.
Buy.
There we go. Yeah.
Xavier Worthy will be one of the best 3 receivers in America this year.
Yep. Okay.
All right.
There you go.
I got my buy or sell questions ready to go. Let me just make sure that I ask them in order.
Yeah, come on, get this right. Will you stop putting Blake through the ringer with this?
But because I've messed up a couple of times. Buy or sell number 1. You're just flat out tired of this Colin Simmons discussion.
I'll sell because, like you said yesterday, my favorite pseudoscience is college recruiting, college football recruiting. It fascinates me, and I do love a hat out of a box, out of a bag, out of a box, and I love movies, and I love the shell game of it. So, and I love how excited fans get. So, not quite yet.
Last year, Dak Prescott threw like 400 interceptions. My question to you is, buy or sell, Dak Prescott over 30 is definitely on his decline.
That's interesting. I'll say sell at this point. I will go benefit of the doubt for Dak and whatever is about to happen, and hopefully them getting some things figured out on offense. No, I'm not going to say there's any kind of obvious decline with Dak just because he's 30. I will believe in this run the damn ball and all this kind of stuff. I think last year was a little bit of a blip because before last year, he wasn't really that guy. I'm going to say that was just a little bit of out of character for Dak.
Now, I think it's as good as it's ever going to be. I think we need to prepare ourselves for Dak in decline.
Well, geez, thanks for that blue paddle upside my head. Appreciate it.
I mean, we need to prepare ourselves, is all I'm saying.
Okay.
Chad Gibson asked Demo will get some snaps at linebacker for the Cowboys this season. I'll say bye.
Oh, yeah, bye.
I don't quite know what – I mean, let's see some preseason games.
Mm-hmm.
But they drafted him at a level that guys like that don't just sit. They play.
Yeah. It'll be both. It's going to be both. I'm not sure if he's ever going to be a badass linebacker or badass safety in that league. I think Dan Quinn's going to give him a shot at both.
Yeah. Buy or sell number 3. The nudity in Oppenheimer made the movie better, but it made you uncomfortable sitting next to your old man.
Sell. Florence Pugh is that hot. It didn't matter. Had my mom been sitting next to me, uncomfortable. Dad was sitting next to me. That was all right.
When she goes to the bookcase and grabs the book with the Sanskrit and then reasserts herself into the previous position.
That's a nice way to say that.
And then makes him read the Sanskrit.
Man.
Not uncomfortable. At that point, it was just, thank you, God.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, the whole world faded away. I didn't know who I was sitting next to at that point. I don't think it would have mattered at that point. she was already one of my favorites. I love her so much from the Black Widow movie and some other stuff. It was awesome, man. Yes, it definitely made the movie better, no doubt.
Did you know going in you were getting that treat, or is that 100% all natural for you?
I think it was about, let's say about an 80, I'll say an 85% surprise. Because somebody, I recall that as I'm watching her, I thought, oh wait, I think I may get some from some pew nudity here. I just sort of heard it in passing, but I was about an 85% surprise.
It's a beautiful moment in the movie, I should say.
It really was. Made me want to be a physicist is what it did.
Oh, man, where do I
wish I was that smart. Good grief.
We picked the wrong craft.
Yeah.
Buy or sell number 4. UGA isn't on the level of the late 80s Oklahoma Sooners under Barry Switzer, but they seem to be on their way.
That's an interesting comparison. I'll give them a buy. I'll give them their love here, especially I don't mean from winning. You right? You mean yeah? I know what you mean. You mean the off the field and stuff. Seem to be on their way. Well, you know what? I'll be old man here. I'll go sell. We had Uzis in the dorms.
It's the right answer, Chad.
Right. I mean, I have to sell. I wanted to go there, but as you think of what they're piling up in Athens off the field, it's got a little more of it's sort of like an urban and Gainesville light version, because we gotten serious on some things, but maybe not quite that serious. Yeah, but Oklahoma was in a different chapter there. Again, cheerleaders and Uzis in the dorms. So I'll just leave it at that.
So if an OU fan says, yes, we had Uzis in the dorms and our quarterback got arrested for selling crack, but none of our players died from street racing, and after someone died, we weren't, like Georgia's still having street racing issues. So I don't know. Right. I don't know how to quantify that.
This is one I know Longhorn fans remember. Remember that joke back in the day about why Oklahoma runs the wishbone? Because you have to run it that way when your hands are always like this.
I'd never heard that before, but that's funny.
You remember that one? Yeah.
I don't, but you did, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, right.
And finally, buy or sell number 5, you believe in Bobby Petrino.
Wow. You saved that one for the end, didn't you? You saved that one for the end. I'm going to say buy. I was actually reading a little bit up on Bobby and how he's enjoying, the play calling stuff. From a play calling standpoint, I'm going to buy, because he has called plays for an offense that's more varied and more interesting. And let's face it, he's called plays for a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. Not that he'll do that, but I'm just saying there's an inventiveness there. So I will buy. By the way, Ketch, real quick bonus. Bobby Petrino says his philosophy for A&M football is FTS. Can you tell me what FTS stands for?
No.
Feed the studs. That's his theory of offensive football. Feed the studs is what he's going to do with the offense at A&M. I will buy that Bobby Petrino makes a difference.
Can I tell you what popped into my head, and which is why I didn't say it out loud?
No, but I was hoping something would, and you would just blurt. I was hoping for a blurt.
Fuck the Stallion.
I knew. And by the way,
I don't know where that came from.
Whoa. And by the way, based on what you just said, the fact that the word sheep starts with an S and you didn't go there.
No, you're so right.
How dare you? I wasn't even trying to set you up for that, but I realize now that FTS was the perfect setup, and someone in the chat is going to text it in 2 seconds. It'll be chatted in. But no, I got there first because you didn't take that.
I don't know why stallion is the word. Like,
yeah.
It's just,
dude, I threw you a sinker that didn't sink. It just laid out over the plate, and you just watched it.
Oh, yeah. You ephus pitched me. But instead of an ephus pitch, you threw it straight down the middle. But I was expecting the ephus, and it was just a called strike 3.
I didn't even realize how good of a setup that was. FT and anything that followed would have been perfect. That was some just unintentional humor, and I set it up, and then that wasn't even – yeah, so there you go. Longhorn fans, Ketch didn't even take the opportunity. Terrible.
When we come back, I won't waste any more opportunities. Cole Patterson joins us from right – oh, he's there.
There we go.
Cole's going to sit tight. We're going to do a quick break. When we come back, I might read Reggie's. He went to Oppenheimer with a group from church comment in the chat. Actually,
Nice.
Just real quick. Well, this will be the last thing before we go to break. LOL, I went to Oppenheimer with a group of 12 from church. My wife's sitting on one side, my pastor on the other. Complete silence until he leans over and says, "This is better than Mission Impossible."
Hallelujah! Hallelujah!
We'll be right back after this break. This Orangebloods recruiting flashback takes a look at a player that was the first commitment of the TCU class of 2020 and became the last signee of the Texas 2020 recruiting class, with a little stopover in Waco in between. That's right, Texas senior defensive back Jahdae Barron had one hell of a recruitment before eventually developing into one of the most important remaining players from a somewhat disastrous 2020 recruiting class. For those that might not remember, Barron finished as a mid 3-star prospect in the Rivals.com rankings while finishing 79th in the state and 72nd in the country as a cornerback. Should note for the record that I had Barron ranked as a 4-star prospect in my rankings and the number 30 overall prospect in the state. When we look at his recruitment, things really started to heat up following a junior day visit in February of 2019 to TCU and Gary Patterson. After visiting on the junior day in February, Barron committed just a couple of weeks later, citing that Patterson's track record of developing players was a big reason for his decision. Yet a little more than a month later, Barron backed out of his commitment to Patterson, primarily because his offer list started to take off shortly after his commitment, with the likes of Oklahoma State, Tennessee, and Arizona jumping into the mix. Before his decommitment, he actually took an unofficial visit to the 40 acres, although the Longhorns didn't offer. Fast forward to June 22nd, and Barron announced his commitment to Baylor. From that moment on, all the way through the rest of signing day, Barron was solid as a rock to the Bears, even in the aftermath of the departure of Baylor head coach Matt Rule. Things changed for Barron in April as he asked for Baylor to release him from his national letter of intent. Quote, "Thank you to the Baylor Nation for embracing me," he said on Twitter. "Today, I requested an official release from my NLI to Baylor and will begin looking for a new school to pursue my athletic dreams and career goals." 8 days later, Barron committed to Tom Herman's Texas Longhorns. Flipping Barron was a huge win for defensive backs coach Jay Valai, who had only been in Austin for a few months when he landed Barron. Barron was the 20th and final signee to a 2020 recruiting class that finished 16th in the nation. While Bijan Robinson is famously remembered as the headliner of the class, Barron was one of the 3 lowest rated prospects in the entire group, according to Rivals.com. Of the 2 players ranked lower than Barron, one of them was none other than All-America linebacker Jalen Ford. We're back. House divided. I don't know why I'm itching like with my arm. I got an itch, and then I did this thing.
You're going all the way over too. That's weird.
I did. Well, because I got my hand on the mouse with the other hand, so I'm mousing it. Hey, we're going to keep the Colin Simmons discussion going right now. And look, some recruiting in general. The thing is, when you've got a badass national or regional recruiting analyst coming on the show, like we do with Cole Patterson from Rivals.com, we don't just we can ask him about other things other than Colin Simmons, although Cole, with less than 49 hours to go until Colin Simmons makes his decision, we're not starting anywhere else. I'll just give you a blank canvas. In your mind, Colin Simmons' decision a couple of days from now looks like what?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me on. I enjoy being on here and talking with you, Ketch. Enjoy talking to you as well, Chad. So excited about that. But yeah, talking about Colin, it seems like it's kind of gone both, kind of momentum shifted both ways. At one point, LSU looked at a team to beat in the spring. Then Texas made a really big push in the summer. And then he made that late visit to LSU multiple days in Baton Rouge. And that kind of seemed to shift the tide back to LSU. But I don't think anybody really has a concrete idea of what he's going to do on Thursday. I believe he's announcing on Thursday afternoon at 2:00. So I guess that's when everybody's going to find out. But in my opinion, I've kind of gone back and forth. Both sides are really confident. At one point, I thought it was LSU. At one point, I thought it was Texas. Talking to you right now, as it stands on Tuesday afternoon, I do think it's Texas. I think if I had to make a prediction right now, I would slightly favor Texas. But like I said, it could be anybody's guess. LSU's right there. They've given him a lot to think about. They've always been a school kind of near the top of his list. But I always go back to even earlier in his recruitment when I talked to Colin, he'd always talk about Texas. Even unprovoked, he'd always mention how they'd always be the school kind of in his top group, whether that be top 5, top 3, top 2. So I think there's a lot of real, genuine interest, obviously, in Texas. I do think if they were able to withstand that last 5th of July, I think that serves really well for Thursday.
Cole, Colin has made it pretty clear at times that he's gonna be, the people won't know exactly what he's gonna do. He kind of likes that part of it. In the time you've been covering recruiting, do you sense more and more guys are kind of going that way, where they get into the social media, they get into the kind of the trolling part of it, if you will, where they really do want these moments like Thursday to be, a coin flip in people's minds, or have both fan bases really locked in?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of kids want to do that, but you can usually read between the lines and read the tea leaves. I know, for instance, Jonte Cook wanted to always have a lot of intrigue and interest around his recruitment, but it always felt like to me that it was going to be Texas. But he's a guy that wanted to keep people guessing. I remember there's a day before he committed, he sneaked leak. He was kind of hinting at a big announcement, ended up being a top 3. He was kind of building some intrigue. But with Colin, I feel like he's really making everybody guess. He's telling people what they want to hear. He's keeping people on their toes. So it's one of those, real recruitment since I started covering recruiting that, I can really see it going either way. I hate to say it's a 50-50 race, but that's what I really consider it to be right now with Colin.
Colin, were you at Duncanville yesterday? Did I see you do an interview with DeCorian Moore?
So DeCorian was actually doing a wide receiver workout, and I did talk to him about Colin, as well as Caden Durham. He's not going to tell me everything, obviously. But even he was like, he's not really sure where he's going to go. I think Colin's really making it a big mystery to everybody around him.
It's funny, little peek behind the scenes here, Chad. When Cole was working at Orangebloods just a couple of months ago, but going back even into last season, one of the things I constantly implored to Cole was at Orangebloods, they want us to play the hits all the time. We would always constantly say, you can't go see Jonte Cook enough. You can't see Colin Simmons. You can't see them enough and report on them enough. Cole, how many times have you seen or interviewed in person Colin Simmons so far?
Yeah, it's been a ton. Going back to spring practice when I first started with the Orangebloods, state championship games. Was at a spring game this year. He was at the All-American Bowl back in January, kind of checking things out there. I even ran into him recently at Kadavian Dotson's ceremony that we hosted on Rival. So I feel like I've gotten to know him pretty well. But still, he knows he wants to keep people guessing, and he does a really good job of doing that. But yeah, I've definitely been able to cover Colin a lot. Yeah, go ahead.
So follow up to that. I wanted to ask that because I wanted to establish for somebody watching right now, as you have as much as anybody else seen, interviewed, interacted. It's just the way kind of fate has unfolded. You've seen a lot. You've been around him a lot. Is there an element to his recruitment from your perspective as a guy that has been around him as much as you've been able to be around him? And by the way, if he ends up being the player that everybody says he is and ends up being a great NFL player, you might be able to write a book on the number of times that you've interviewed him.
Yeah.
What is the element of his recruitment from your vantage point that you either think is the most important or is maybe the most important that enough people aren't focusing on as he heads towards a decision?
Yeah, I mean, obviously NIL is going to play a huge role in where he goes. He hasn't really been, too secretive of that fact. And both schools are offering, some pretty big deals or big opportunities. I have to say they're making him think. But at the end of the day, I think he just wants to be at a place where he's comfortable at. That's one thing that I think Texas has done a good job of. Dating back to Chris Gilbert when he was back on staff. Building those early relationships and Even when he left, Texas has done a good job of, keep those relationships going. Steve Sarkisian's driven him around campus on a golf cart. So they've definitely treated him like that priority. Obviously they made Arch Manning and, Anthony Hill, the two guys they won on each side of the ball last year, and they've really zeroed in on Colin. And I really think he feels that. They haven't changed it up at all. There's some times it seemed like Texas might be sliding down a bit. Maybe LSU is getting momentum. A&M try to get in the race in the spring. But Texas always hung around. I really think the relationships aspect is a big reason why. Texas has done a great job of recruiting Dallas here, especially too. He's close with Jonte Cook, Anthony Hill. I think that definitely helps in his recruitment.
Cole Patterson, Rivals recruiting analyst, joining us at Rivals Cole on Twitter if you want to give him a follow. So earlier, Cole, somebody on the chat said that for them, Colin Simmons feels like the second most important recruit for Steve Sarkisian after Arch Manning. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think I would. I think Anthony Hill was right up there as well, especially with Anthony Hill going to A&M at one point. You don't want to lose that kind of guy to your in-state rival. But I do think Colin Simmons is in that tier for sure. He's in state. He's a 5-star prospect, number one player in the state, a guy that we really think you can't miss on. He reminds me a lot of, I'm not sure if he's ever going to get to this level, but he plays a lot like Micah Parsons, how he can change a game. I've seen him a lot live. I remember in the state championship game back in December, he took over that game. Can't remember how many sacks he actually ended up with, but it seemed like he was in the backfield every single time. He just has that game-changing ability. So, yeah, I'd agree that if he's not number 2, I'd say for sure he's number 3 with, Arch Manning and Anthony Hill.
Cole, I want to ask you about Texas a little bit in-state. A year ago, I think they only signed 4 of the top 19 or 4 of the top 20 guys in the state of Texas in the Rivals rankings. Now, it was Anthony Hill, Jonte Cook, Colton Vasek, and Malik Muhammad, right? So they only signed 4, but it was the right 4. And so nobody dared say Texas has a problem recruiting Texas in-state. But I think the year before, Texas only got 2 of the state's top 20. And this year, pending Colin Simmons and Kobe Black's decision, they have none in the Rivals top 20 in Texas. Rivals is an anti-Texas. They're not trying to go out of their way to not put Texas commits in the top 20. As fate would have it, Texas is just recruiting better out of state than they are in state. Why?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting as well. It seems like Louisiana is kind of where they're picking up the slack, where they're not getting the in-state guys. They're going into Louisiana and pulling that top-tier talent out. I'm not sure where I can put my finger on why they're struggling with top Texas guys. But, I mean, like you said, if they land Colin Simmons and Kobe Black, I think a lot of people are willing to ignore that. Because, last year, as you mentioned, they landed Jonte Cook, they landed Anthony Hill, Malik Muhammad. So they're able, to your point, able to land those top-tier guys that they zeroed in on. I'm not sure what the problem is because they're in the race for sure with a bunch of guys. Corey and Gibson, there was a 2-team battle there. Micah Hudson, they seem to be really up on his list at one point. They still kind of are, in that top 2 or 3 for him. So I don't know. Nigel Smith is a guy that they were in on. But, yeah, it's definitely interesting. I'm not sure what the common theme is because you have guys like Xavier Filsaime and DJ Lagway going to Florida. You got Justin Williams going to Georgia. I think it's just, guys wanting to see, out of state what these programs can do for them out of state. The Georgias of the world compete for national championships. So I really think it's just winning. If Texas can, put together a big season on the field, I think you'll see the tide shift there.
Cole, as I'm looking at the A&M class, just a quick question there for 24, 18 commits. As we're sitting here talking about Texas fans and Colin Simmons, that's obviously where their focus is. If you're walking down the street and an Aggie fan walks up to you and says, hey, are we going to get blank? Who's in the blank right now, do you think, for A&M fans that they're watching most closely right now?
Yeah, there's a couple that kind of jump out to me. One, I guess, is Micah Hudson, a guy that they have really made a huge push for. There's some speculation he was going to be in College Station at the end of July. He ended up going up to Lubbock. Seems like, I think Texas is kind of hanging around, but I think A&M's kind of made the biggest push to potentially get him away from Texas Tech. Xavier Atkins, Rivals 100 guy, committed to Arkansas or LSU, excuse me. I know Arkansas is also pushing for him. A&M's in a good spot to flip him. You got Nigel Smith, the guy that they're still in the mix for. I think Oklahoma is a good school to watch there, but A&M is firmly in the mix for him. So I'd say those 3. I'd say definitely Micah Hudson's the guy that everybody wants. If you compare, a guy like Cam Coleman with Micah Hudson and Draylon Miller, and get Xavier Atkins, see if you can get things going. Nigel Smith. I say that's the trio that you're focused on the most.
Cole, there's some Texas fans in the chat who are upset that Chad had the gall to ask about an Aggie question.
I mean,
and yet
I respect it.
But part of that answer, I do not want to put words into your mouth. Mm-hmm. But if I go to orangebloods.com into the recruiting thread section and say that we had Cole on Orange Bloods Live, and he said he thinks that Micah Hudson's recruitment right now looks like Tech 1, A&M 2, Texas 3. That's what I heard. Mm-hmm. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, as of August 8th, I think that's kind of where things stand. But again, if Texas is able to have a big season, they're able to get him on campus, I don't think Texas can be counted out. But I do think Tech's kind of got – yeah, if you told me that in June, I would have thought you were crazy as well. But A&M, I don't know. They were able to get him on campus at the end of June, kind of in that College Station State 7-on-7 tournament down there. And from then on, they've been chipping away. I still think they have a lot of work to do, as well as Texas. I think Tech is kind of out to a huge lead in that recruitment. Kind of like I mentioned Colin Simmons looking at relationships. Tech's done a great job of building those relationships. But, yeah, as of August 8th, I think A&M has a slight edge over Texas in that recruitment. But that's not to say Texas can't overcome that and get him in the class. But, yeah, you did hear me right. I'm willing to fight the pitchforks as well.
I just am not – look, you've said a couple of, and so that everybody realizes, like, just to Cole's defense, he thinks as of August 8th, right? That is today. That's what you said.
Yeah,
I don't know what the day is. He said 10 minutes ago, he thinks Colin Simmons is going to pick Texas. But to go with the good, you also have to accept that Cole, who also has talked to Micah Hudson probably a dozen times in person himself over the course of the last year or two, that he thinks that A&M has leaped ahead of Texas in the positioning, which isn't a shock. I don't know. I didn't think it was going to happen that quickly, right? I mean, I've known that A&M was fighting to get in with Hudson. I didn't think Texas would lose position that quickly.
So Ketch, what you're saying is you're glad I asked that question. Is that what you're saying?
I'm glad you asked that question, Chad.
Right. You hear that, chatters?
I respected the question. I respected it. But yeah, I even talking to Micah back in College Station, I didn't really get too much of a sense that A&M was making too big of a push. It felt like Tech and Texas at the end of June even then. And then, like I said, A&M kept chipping away. We kind of expected, kind of behind the scenes, Micah Hudson potentially to go public with a commitment this summer. That obviously never happened. Initially, I thought that was Texas kind of making him wait. It turns out A&M's the school in his ear right now. But again, for everybody listening, I do think Texas still has a shot. If I was to put money on it or anything like that, make a prediction, I do think it's Tech, A&M kind of hanging behind, and then Texas to round out the top three.
Chad, I just got one more thing, and then we can let Cole go. I want Cole, for you and me and everybody in the chat, you can pick any recruit in the country, your favorite single most badass football player that you think you've seen in the 2024 recruiting class that you're convinced is going to be like a top 5 NFL draft pick because that's how bad he is. Who's your guy? All over the country. You can pick anybody, but pick a name that Chad might not know that forevermore Chad will remember because you brought his name up fresh, virgin ears for Mr. Hastings.
I mean, I'll go with 2 in-state, but it's kind of cheating, so I'm not going to spend too much time on them. That's Colin and Micah. I mean, I've seen them bunch a lot, and I feel like they're safe NFL first-round picks. Kind of going out of the state that people listening might not be too familiar with is Jamonte Waller, an outside linebacker out of Mississippi going to Florida. A little undersized, bit of a tweener, but if you turn on his film, again, I'm not making a apples-to-apples comparison, but he looks a lot like Micah Parsons when he plays. He just gets in the backfield at will, elite pass rusher. A guy that I've kind of fallen in love with on film that, people listening probably aren't too familiar with. I like Keontae Henry, a wide receiver out of Lake Dallas, going to Purdue, a bigger, thick receiver that can make a lot of plays. I still like David Dotson, a guy that's willing to stick his nose in the run game. State championship DB, that very local leader. Xavier Philsame's another guy that I really like going to Florida. I'd say though, but off the radar, I got a guy. You haven't arrived with 100, but out of Mississippi is Jamonte Waller for sure. It's kind of my guy in this class.
Chad, you wouldn't know. I doubt you know this, but Cole is a graduate of Allen High School.
Oh, okay.
So he's completely familiar with a certain Kyler Murray.
Yeah. And I'm sure he knows what it's like to walk down a full hallway too. That's a lot of folks at Allen High School.
Yeah. The graduation is longer than you would even imagine.
Oh, I can't imagine.
He also is a Mississippi State grad.
Oh, okay.
So it did not surprise me that the guy that he picked that was his guy. Now he's going to Florida, but he's a Mississippi guy. And as soon as Cole said it, I was like, of course Cole picked a Mississippi guy.
Hey, I'm never going to forget the name Jamonte Waller now, not only because it's a cool name, but if he's a badass and he's going to Florida, well, yeah, he'll look good in that uniform. I can't wait to see him.
Turn on the tape. You won't be disappointed.
Nice.
Micah Parsons is never a a thing to hear.
I was going to say.
He's undersized. I don't want to make it seem like he's going to be an all-pro his first year in the NFL, but, man, his tape's a lot of fun.
No, we heard you the next Micah Parsons. No problem.
Have Blake make a graphic.
No, exactly. The quote will be the next Micah Parsons. Cole Patterson says, Cole, man, get back to it. I know you're in the middle of rankings and stuff right now, so I know I appreciate you jumping out of your busy day to come on and talk a little Texas high school recruiting and specifically, well, the Micah Hudson thing will stand in my head, but yeah, Colin Simmons information all day long. We appreciate it. Have a good rest of the week, my man.
Yeah, you as well. Looking forward to being back on.
You got it. Well,
thanks,
whenever
Cole.
We need Cole Patterson to talk a little recruiting in the state of Texas, he is down to do so. Before we take the super chat, anything you want to say coming out of that?
Well, I kind of want to throw a chat at you that I saw while we were talking to Cole. Someone asked by the end of the season, what will look better, my hairline or the Aggies record?
You did see that.
It's just a big how dare you. I mean, I'm not sure if that's a joke on how bad they think the Aggies are going to be or a joke on me. Now, because as you look at the hairline, you can say what you want about the hair style choice. Hairline, pretty solid. I'm here with my dad, which is a pretty good indicator. And the man still got the hair. We still have it.
That's not like a widow's peak or anything.
No. I mean, I'm doing this by choice, which upsets a lot of other men and women because I'm doing it by choice because it's really cool. And I shaved the head in 2011 for a friend of mine that got testicular cancer, and we did it for him. And then he beat the cancer and grew his hair back, and I just decided to go with the easy way. So I got the gray
showing off as far as I'm concerned.
I got the gray on the side a little bit, but it's a lot cooler this way. So by the end of the year, what looks better, my hairline or the Aggies record? I'm going to say Aggies record, but just by that much.
I'm going to go your hairline.
How dare you?
I'm going to say your hairline just because it is so good. You don't have a bad hairline.
It is good. You know, what fools them is this weird. There's a weird little patch up front. You feel like that could be like some balding thing. I don't know what it is, but the full line, pretty good. Pretty good.
Okay, so the Argonath is just setting stuff on fire.
Here we go.
Florence Pugh is not hot.
Okay, that's silly.
Also, I'm not an Aggie. My bad. Sorry about that. Proud Texas alum, but also a Dickinson alum.
Dickinson.
I think the last great Gator who went to Texas might have been Donnie Little.
How about that?
I can't remember the last time Texas signed anybody from Dickinson.
That is interesting. Argonath, we will respect your opinion. You get to have your opinion. That is what's going to be great about this show. We believe in all opinions, but we will not agree with all opinions. I don't fully trust the eyeballs of somebody that would tell me that they don't think Florence Pugh is hot. But that's you. That's fine. The rest of us can think she's hot. You do whatever you need to do.
I think it might be a Dickinson thing. The water.
Maybe. Florence Pugh.
Water in Dickinson makes the football players go to A&M, and it blinds the vision as it relates to good-looking women.
I think it does. Here's a comparison, Catches, to another movie that is not on Oppenheimer's level. Have you ever seen it'd be like maybe it was the first Chris Pratt Jurassic Park movie. Did you watch that one? Okay.
Yes.
Do you remember Bryce Dallas Howard and the level of constant sexy sweat she had going on once things happened in that movie?
Sure.
That's what Pugh had going on in Oppenheimer. This constant layer of like sexy sweat. That's what she had going on. She looked incredible.
The thing is, I've seen Oppenheimer twice now. Both times I've seen Florence Pugh get naked.
Yeah.
At no point did I go, really wish they had a substitute here.
Yeah, right. I mean,
oh, God.
I mean, you could have the discussion about would you rather see Florence Pugh or Emily Blunt, because Emily Blunt is in that movie and she's very attractive. I get it. But yes, I can't imagine watching that movie and thinking, boy, does she need to put a towel on. Like, if you're attracted to women, I'm assuming that was positive. But that's just, maybe not. I don't know.
Well, at that point, I was like looking at Oppenheimer and thinking, eat a sandwich, man. Like, he was a skinny, naked man.
Well, they had scenes where people were telling him to eat. Remember? Multiple times people handed him food because he's a brilliant scientist. And we all know, the book Smart versus Common Sense. They'll go 3-4 days without eating, bathing, cleaning. That's who he was.
I mean,
Paxton.
Yeah.
Off the rails. See,
Once or twice an hour, we're off the rails and away we go.
Paxton, what you got to understand is deep down, I don't know if we have rails. See, that's the part of it you got to understand. I don't know that there are ever rails to start. We're kind of like a train on a dirt road. We could go anywhere. There's not you act like there's a structure. You act like at the beginning of the show, Ketch and I come on. Today, the Longhorns practiced for 15 sessions, and there was a horn between each session. Ketch, can we confirm? Yeah, that's not what happens. We start in a place, and we end up in another place. And between, there's a lot.
Yeah, and by the way, Reggie says it. F them rails.
F them. No rails. Who needs a rail? Good grief. No rails? Come on.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a break at the top of the hour. Matt Barrie. I haven't talked to Matt Barrie in a decade.
Me either. Since you and I stopped doing the radio show back in 2012, I say that like we chose. Since we were pulled apart, since we were forced divorced in 2012, I have not communicated much with Matt. A little bit of guest spots in that next phase. But then he really went into a time catch where he was so busy at ESPN, it just never worked out. And so, I haven't talked to him in a while either. He's one of my favorite guys in the business. And we do need to talk to him about Arizona State going to the Big 12. My dream has come true. I wanted Arizona State and Texas Tech in the same conference so those two schools could party together. So I want to know if he's looking forward to it as well. I think those are going to be some wild tailgates when the Red Raiders and the Sun Devils get together. And we'll talk to Matt at 2:20. They're bringing Arizona with them. They're bringing Utah with them. They're bringing Dion and Colorado with them. This new Big 12 is, it's not that conference and it's not that conference, but I think it's going to be a pretty damn interesting conference, Ketch. I really do.
It cracks me up that he was the king of our old radio show when he was working in Dallas with Newey back in the day.
That's right.
Which must seem like a lifetime for him, right? Because he's been at ESPN for a hot minute now. Now he's like their lead college football. He's like on set calling games on Thursday night.
Yeah.
He just never stops. And of course, every 5 minutes you'll see him hosting Sports Center as well. So
I'll tell you who he is. Here's who he is. The progression to me, Chris Fowler to me gave way to Reese Davis. He's the new Reese Davis to me.
I think that's completely fair, which also means he's the new Chris Fowler as well.
Yeah, right. It's that progression.
If we say you are the new Reese Davis, is that a compliment or is that not high enough?
Wouldn't it be great if Matt Barrie had like a bad Reese Davis story and he just laid it out on our show?
Don't ever fucking call me Reese Davis again.
Never say Reese Davis to me again.
How dare you?
How dare you?
So here's what we're going to do. We'll take a break at the top of the hour.
Yes.
For the next 10 minutes, give us your super chats. Cut to the front of the line. Or we'll just pick questions from the chat. But this is your time now. So if there's no guest at this moment, let us have it. What do you want us to talk about?
Throw it in. And remember, at 2:00, we are going to talk about the Johnny Manziel documentary in the crap bag, because it's on. It's available on Netflix. I got to get Ketch's thoughts on Manziel. I got to get some of y'all's thoughts on Manziel, because deep down, if you're a Longhorn fan, you'll still admit to me you kind of liked watching Johnny Manziel a little bit. We got to talk some Johnny Manziel, Ketch. I want to get some of your insider thoughts on him at 2:00. I want to get a good recruiting story if you have one. We'll talk about him coming up at 2:00. Because you and I didn't get to talk Johnny in our radio version, because they divorced us. They pulled us apart before Johnny became Johnny.
Right before it happened.
Yes.
They probably a month.
Basically a month before Cliff Kingsbury, and Kevin Sumlin said, how about we go with the wacko from Kerrville? Let's just see what happens. About a month before that is when we got yanked apart.
Who would have been better as an A&M? We're talking about Heisman Trophy winners here. So, I mean, it's rarefied air. If you could have had the Kyler Murray that Oklahoma ended up having, would you rather, and this might be, you can't, I feel like I'm answering my question before I ask it, but if you could have experienced one of those two phenomenal college football players as your own, you stick with Johnny, or if you could have done it all over again and Kyler had worked out,
that's fascinating. And I just get one. I get one or the other. Whoa, that's a great one. That is a great question. I'll be posing that one to. I hadn't ever thought of posing that one to an Aggie before. Man, that's interesting. So you get all the runs, and you get the runs ultimately with Oklahoma, and because they went all the way to
Kevin and Kyler Murray, father son. I mean, they were really at that point.
Right. That means you would have gone all the way to like the semis, right? You're saying you get all the results too?
Maybe, yeah. I mean,
and
I don't know.
And you still get the Heisman. Ugh.
You're winning the Heisman no matter what.
Right. You get the Heisman no matter what. See, yeah. Oh, God, that's crazy. My gut's going to have to say I take Kyler, because I grew up so in love with his dad. And even though we found whatever it is about, their attitudes or however the egos work, I might have to lean that way, because it's also more productivity for the team. It's more productivity. If you guarantee me I get where Oklahoma got with him, which is all the way to, I think, at least one semi. Yeah, you're a cruel man, Geoff Ketchum. That's what that is. You're a cruel man, but I love it. I love that thought.
Matt says, would you rather have Chad represent your favorite university or Butterbean?
Wait, is he saying I look like Butterbean?
I think he's calling me Butterbean.
Oh, I don't know.
It may be that he's a Texas fan that doesn't like me, and his suggestion, hey, people, wake up, because we've got this asshole over here without hair.
Oh, I see.
And we could have the guy that's an Aggie that does have hair. He just doesn't want to grow it out. We could have that guy instead of me, because I'm a jerk.
And by the way, this week, I also did not bring the head shaving equipment or the face shaving equipment. So by Friday, just going to grow all this out. Whatever that is, it's going to look like it's going to look on Friday. So we'll have some gray coming in.
Shave too. I was going to do it today. I mean, I feel like a homeless person.
We'll have that on. I'll just keep it leaning in like that. Yeah.
Hey, Ben, we don't have to do a redo.
Oh, come on. That's a great time frame to go to, though, Ketch, because I remember when Aggies used to get mad at me. I had an Aggie get mad at me right after that. Not Vince McNeil, but right after that with Colt McCoy, the team that went and played Bama for the title. Somebody got mad at me for not saying that I thought A&M's team was better than that Colt McCoy team in what was that? The 08 team. So a little bit, I'm like not right after Vince, obviously, a little bit after Vince. But that to me said all I needed to know. I'm like, you want me to go on the radio and say that A&M was like 4-8 that year? Something like that? I think it was 4-8, 5-7, something like that. One of the Gerard Johnson teams. I think. Like, you want me to go on air and say that's a better football team than this team Colt McCoy is taking to the championship game? I wouldn't have a job. What are you crazy? Yeah, I'll never forget that. Yeah, VY McNeil, Moline VY on that one. I love me some Reggie McNeil, but it did not end as well as it started.
How did that not end better? How did Reggie McNeil fizzle out?
It's crazy. Ketch, they booed him on his senior day. There were stories of like them in the huddle and him like ripping into his teammate.
Is he
and they didn't like him by the end
of College Station?
What's that?
Is he the Chris Sims of College Station?
Oh man, probably.
Does he go back?
If you had to, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. But that wave, I mean, they went through some crazy ones. Like he was a part of them eating some wild losses in College Station that I would love to forget, but I can't. Like I just can't.
And
like
no, Mark, Butterbean's not effing hilarious. I've heard it before. The thing is, it's not a compliment. If somebody says, Geoff, you look like the guy from The Shield, I think they actually mean that in a positive way.
Yeah, chickless would be a compliment. I don't sense Butterbean is a compliment. So, right, if they give me the John Kitna or the Rick Carlisle, I always take it as a compliment. I don't think Butterbean was meant as a compliment.
He was literally, I think, suggesting that you would be a better Longhorn than I am, I think. Because he was talking about representing the university.
Yeah, there's
a nice person, Chad. Like I'd like
not
to
nice.
think,
There's a lot, and there's a lot of people that would disagree with them on that.
I feel like I've done a lot of good in the world. And
I feel like you have too. You can't let him get you down. You can't let him get you down. Okay, we need a super. I want a super chat right now. Little positivity for Ketch. Can I get a $5 or more super chat? Just something positive for Ketch right now. Tell him why you love him. Let's go. Positivity on a Tuesday. Come on.
I mean,
Johnny Manziel documentary day.
The ballless guy from Game of Thrones.
Ooh. You'd take that as a compliment?
Isn't that his name?
Who is it? Varys?
Isn't it Varys?
Varys. Yes, Varys. That's a handsome man. He's good looking.
Yeah, you give me Butterbean.
I don't have a problem with that.
What you're just saying is you think I'm a fat bald guy. Like, that's just not nice. Compare me to another bald guy. I don't mind being the eunuch.
Hey, here we go. I think that was my man Cameron Parker. Ketch is a good man, just can be harsh at times. That's fine. There you go. He's a good man.
Am I harsh?
Good people. What up, Cameron Parker?
Hey, here we go. Thank you.
Come on.
Thank
Super
you.
Chat. Jeff Kirch is I. Another Kirch. They think you're all right, but they can't type your name right.
Well, I like the fact that you were like, give us $5. And he was like,
$1.99.
I'm going to give Kirch $1.99.
Nope. Couldn't even part with a Lincoln just to say Ketch is all right. Come on now.
Okay, I can live with this.
You're okay with that? You all right?
In unison, we do it together.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I have to say, I've heard this one a few times.
Okay. Mr. Clean.
That's kind of the original.
I always thought Mr. Clean was, I mean, remember Mr.
Clean.
That's a compliment.
Mr. Clean was getting up in those panties of the housewives out there.
You always felt like the housewives were really happy when Mr. Clean showed up and when the brawny guy showed up. And it wasn't just because they were helping clean the house. You know, it was everything. All of it. That's a sexy bald
is what he was doing.
That was a sexy bald man.
Every time I see Mr. Clean, I'm like, that man's having a lot of sex.
Yeah. Here it is, Ketch. Here it is from Luke, Super Chat. There's your $5.
Thank you.
Ketch is the reason I tune in every day. Blake didn't type the part where they said ... and I tolerate Chad. They just put that part in. Ketch is the reason I tune in every day.
Luke's last name, Couric, is not much different than what the last guy called me. So now we're like play cousins because his last name is Couric, and this guy was calling me Kirch.
That is great. Kirch.
They're close.
Jeff Kirch.
It's very much like Kush man. I don't know. I'm trying to remember the Cushman song. We got a few more super chats. This one is nice.
The 10 spot.
Harry Orange Wookie.
Thank you, Harry. $10. Haters gonna hate. Man, keep doing you, Ketch. You're not harsh. You're honest. That's why I listen. There you go. There it is. Well done.
Thanks,
well
Mom.
done.
I appreciate Mom coming in under her Harry Orange Wookie alias and saying it nice. She even tried to hide it by calling me Ketch instead of Geoff. So nice job, Mom.
Nice. Well done. Well done.
The super chats just won't stop.
How about this one? $5. Ketch has the brains of this operation and no hair. Chad has the hair, but unfortunately an Aggie brain. Yes. An Aggie brain. That's probably true.
No lies have been told.
Yeah, right. For those CM Punk fans out there, tell me when I'm lying.
If somebody dared me to grow out my hair, I might do it just to see how obscenely ugly it is. Because I've seen my hairline, and I feel like if I let it grow out, I would look like an extra from Three's Company.
Oh, okay. Like
the guys I'd have really bad hair, and just you can't hide it.
But is it like? I mean, would you have the balding thing going on? Would you have like would you have like the Larry from Three Stooges kind of going on? Yeah,
you nailed it. It'd be
Costanza.
Very much Larry from Three Stooges,
right? Little Costanza vibe or something. Okay,
but maybe like a weird fold comb over. Like I think I could have that thing that bald people who don't want to go bald, and so they fold what little hair they have over their head. I think that's what I would be, which really seems hideous.
Dude, you with a comb over would be epic.
I almost want to grow up my hair just to comb over it and see how bad it would look. I don't know why it says not like that, but
I don't know what it. Yeah, I don't know what it says about someone who's dreaming, like working towards a comb over on purpose. I don't even know what that says. Oh my God.
Like those old milk commercials, Chad. I'm drinking milk, and one of these days I'm gonna have that comb over, and all of you are gonna shut up.
Man, $4.99 super chat from Mark. Why doesn't Sims come back and P.S. Butterbean was a bad mofo that can knock you out 90%? That can knock out 90% of the world. He was a bad mofo at a time. That's absolutely true.
Who did Butterbean ever beat, though?
I mean, there were a lot. Most of Butterbean was like exhibition boxing stuff, right? I mean, it wasn't like we were talking. It wasn't like legit
was the Street Fighter. Kimbo Slice.
Kimbo, yeah.
If Kimbo and Butterbean in their primes fought each other.
I mean, I always lean towards, even though it's a little novelty, I lean towards a pure boxer there. If Butterbean catches Kimbo, it's over.
It's lights out.
It is over. And I don't know if, like, before Kimbo could really get his hands on him, I don't know. I don't know if he could have dropped Butterbean. I think Butterbean would have got him.
I think it was distracting because Butterbean's shorts were pulled up almost to his nipples.
Yeah, he did he looked like Apollo Creed if he was, a bald white guy. I mean, a bald big white guy.
Yeah, no.
He would pull. You're right.
He's like Apollo Creed, but different.
Yeah, Apollo Creed. But
Butterbean is watching the show right now, and he's like, "Whoa. He's rewinding the video where Chad says he's just like Apollo Creed. I mean, what Butterbean? You're welcome.
Worst description ever of a person. The worst comparison ever. All right. Did you say you want to take a break here, or what are we doing?
One more super chat.
One more. Okay. Look at that. All right.
Is he talking about me or you?
I'm assuming they're talking about you. We asked for nice comments on you. I just love that bald head and smooth voice. Technically, I'm not bald. I've got the short thing going on. I think they're giving all that love to you. That's all you, big sexy.
Ben, not nice. That is an unfounded allegation.
Come on. I mean, really, if we're gonna go into like Butterbean was a work, what are we? Is that what we're doing? That's what we're doing. Next, we're gonna go into the Conor McGregor through the dolly, and that was a work. Like, come on, people, what are we doing?
All right, we'll be back, and when we come back, You guys might not like it, but Chad and I will. What is that? What are you doing?
That's the cowboy.
Oh, you just styrofoam cupping it today. Jimmy, I see your super chat. We'll get to that when we come back as well. But first, we got to hydrate. We'll be right back. One of our very first Orangebloods recruiting flashbacks will focus on a player that went on to become one of the best running backs in the history of the sport. Jamaal Charles was a high 4-star prospect by Rivals.com when he signed with the Longhorns in 2005, finishing number 57 overall in the Rivals 100 and number 4 overall in the state of Texas. Personally, I had Jamaal Charles as a 5-star prospect on my Lone Star Recruiting Top 100 list, but I have to admit that I wasn't head over heels in love with him the first time I watched his junior film as a prospect. It's hard for me to admit this out loud, but I actually had questions about his speed and whether he was really as fast as his track exploits suggested he was. Ultimately, he was scoring touchdowns as a junior at Memorial by such wide margins that he really never had to open up his speed on the field as much as he just seemed to coast. It didn't take me long to figure out that questioning his speed was one of the dumbest things I've ever done while working in this industry, and that's probably saying something. The most dramatic part of his recruitment might have come on the day he decided to commit to the Longhorns, because when he picked up the phone to call running backs coach Mike Haywood, no one was there to take the call. Charles told Jason Sukamel of Orangebloods.com that he would call Mack Brown back the next day and make it official. And that's exactly what he did. The hit rate for the class was exceptional, as Charles was joined by the likes of Henry Melton, Roy Miller, Jermichael Finley, Roderick Muckleroy, Quan Cosby, Chris Hall, Charlie Tanner, and of course, Colt McCoy. When it's all said and done, and you look back at the last quarter century of Rivals.com ranking prospects, Jamaal Charles is one of the greatest Longhorn prospects that ever lived.
So, Ketch, every time I see that one and think of Jamaal Charles, I think this is right. Wouldn't Jamaal Charles have been – he would have been a part of the Longhorns that played Arizona State in that Holiday Bowl?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have that right?
That would have been his last game.
So I got I got fired from radio in 2007, but I was still able to do some contract work for the station, do things here and there. I got to do parabolic mic for that game. And I was on the sideline, and like Alex Dunlap told us the story yesterday of almost getting hit by Malik Murphy. Dude, Colt McCoy threw a little swing. I think it was a swing pass to Jamaal. He did not hit me, but as he went by, I thought, my God, that would have been painful if he did. That was a lot of a whole hunk of speed and athleticism coming right by me. Thank goodness I was able to kind of step back out of the way and not get crushed.
Ben wants a Victor Ike recruiting story.
Ooh.
I can tell them I certainly covered that. And I want to get to I got a Jamaal Charles story I'm going to give you that most of the people in the show have never heard before.
Okay.
I think it will be quite controversial.
All right.
But then we got the Manziel stuff. I do want to get to this, our last super chat of the last hour.
People are going to start super chatting you like $100 to avoid hearing us talk about Manziel.
Okay,
you realize
if that happens, then we can live with that.
Okay.
If that's our worst problem today, is people just started sending us C notes to avoid Johnny Manziel discussion. I mean, cool.
Right.
We do that every day at 2:00. Let's make a deal, Ketch. Grow out your hair starting today until our first loss. If your 9-3 is correct, then you should be able to cut it September 9th. Put your hair on the line, Ketch.
Oh, my goodness.
No.
No.
I mean, here's the thing, Jimmy. You just described a bet. What's the payoff for me?
Yeah, you get nothing out of that. We all get to laugh at you, but we would get nothing.
No, I'm not. The thing is, I also don't think a month would be enough.
Yeah, like Jimmy needs to come back and say on the back end of that, and if something, then, he'll like super chat us $500. That's what he needs to say. That's different.
I'm not even doing it for fun. He can say it. Hey, Jimmy, go ahead and throw that out there if you want to. I'll pay Ketch $500. Not enough.
Yeah.
I'm good. So you can say it, Jimmy. I promise I will not accept it.
Okay. So you have a Jamal Charles story first or Victor Ikes first?
No, I want to hold on. I got to do this thing.
We have another one. More
Ben,
super chat.
I'm not a coward. That's not what this is.
He wants to get something out of it.
I'm not Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future. You're not going to get me to do it by calling me a chicken.
What's the matter, McFly? Chicken.
All right. So you want to know my Jamal Charles story?
Sure.
This is the spring of 2007. Might have even been signing day of 2007. It's after the Alamo Bowl game against Iowa. Is that right? In 2006?
Sounds about right, yeah.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, in the Alamo Bowl game, Jamal Charles had a big play in that game. But at one point during the game, Charles got injured and had to come off the field. And I think they were calling for Charles to go back into the game, and Charles didn't go back into the game.
Okay.
That happens. We're having a press gathering. I think it was for National Signing Day in February of 2007. After the press conference ends, Mack Brown went out of his way to talk to the media and throw Jamal Charles under the bus.
Wow.
Like letting people know that in his estimation, I think the alleged allegation was that Charles wasn't hurt. He was just refusing to go back into the game. And it bothered Mack Brown so much that a couple of months later, like 6 weeks later, he made a point to go to the media and kind of trash Charles behind the scenes to get that out there, that Jamal Charles was a guy that didn't go back into the games, that he was okay. Look, it's been 15, 16 years since it happened, but I'll never forget when and where it happened. They did the press conference in what is now the football facility. So it wasn't, it wasn't at Belmont. It was like in one of those rooms where the trophy cases and everything are at the football facility. And walking out, I was just like, wow, I can't believe Mack Brown just did Jamal Charles dirty like that. In all of the years I ever covered Mack Brown, I can't ever remember him throwing a player under the bus.
Yeah,
but he threw Jamal Charles under the bus that day.
That is weird, but it also kind of leads us into that next season that we always talk about where, 07, where then he has to, oops into Jamal Charles again. So maybe some of that bad feeling started the 07 season, and then it literally has to be that injury, slight change in an offense, and then he has to go crazy against Nebraska to get, Mack Brown kind of back on his side. By the way, Ketch, I pulled up the box score. Jamal had 4 carries for 26 yards. By the way, that's a 6.5 yard average. Y'all might want to find him a 5th carry in that game. He also had 1 catch for 72 yards and a touchdown. That must be the big play you're talking about.
In the game against Iowa?
In the game against Iowa. 1 catch, 72 yards, touchdown.
I told you he had a monster play.
Yeah, and again, 6.5 a carry on 4 carries.
And so they win the game.
Yeah,
but he only carries the ball 4 times in that game. And again, I think if I can remember what the allegation was they thought he was fine and they were trying to get him back onto the field and Jamal wouldn't go. And after that happened, and look, the only reason why I bring it up, because Mack Brown never once said, hey, I'm going to tell you this. And you never have to, you can never tell anybody that it came from me. He just told the room.
Right.
I didn't make any agreement that I would never mention what he was saying out loud. Yeah. He just on the way out the door was like, hey, and just so you guys know, and I think, what it might have been, a lot of people might have been saying like, you guys are dumb for not giving Jamal Charles more carries in that game. And I think part of it was we weren't dumb. He didn't want to go back into the game.
He like refused to play or something. Yeah, right.
And then you're right, man. It got tricky for him as a junior. He opens up with 3 100-yard games in 2007, but then 14 carries against Rice, 17 against Kansas State, 17 in a loss to Oklahoma. Then he has 7 carries against Iowa State. Then the next week in Waco, I don't think he started that game, and he had 16 carries for 56 yards. And at that moment in Jamal Charles's career, it did feel like, is he about to no longer be the running back at Texas?
Right.
And then the next week, 290 against Nebraska by accident.
Yeah. Oops.
180 against against Oklahoma State, 174 against Tech, only 92 yards in a loss to A&M in a game that we've talked about. That was a weird, wild game, although he did have 81 yards receiving in that game as well. And then he finished his career against Arizona State. Matt Barrie joining us in like 5 minutes, 161 yards.
That's crazy. Yeah,
let's just keep going until Matt Barrie joins us. Let's talk Johnny Manziel. I don't mean to steal your thunder.
Oh, no. It's all right. So, yeah, tonight's the documentary. Or I say tonight's the documentary. It's out there now. It hit on Netflix, I guess, at midnight. So the Johnny Manziel documentary is out there. I'm interested to see it. So, Ketch, I remember when I first heard about Johnny Manziel at an A&M game, A&M Clemson. I remember it. And I heard somebody talking like nearby. And it was blah, 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 and this kid and this recruit and blah, blah, and I remember him saying, and he calls him, or they call him Johnny Football. They literally said that. And they call him Johnny Football. And that's the first time I ever heard about him. Do you remember, like, cover, whether it was on the recruiting side, just you as a fan? Do you remember when you first heard about there's this kid out in Kerrville doing XYZ?
Well, yeah, because as a high school player, he was so phenomenal. By his senior year, the numbers that he was putting up were mind-boggling. And so the question was really, who is he at the college level? A lot of people just didn't believe that he was going to be a quarterback, not just Mack Brown, right? I mean, that's kind of one of the original. Mack offered him as a defensive back kind of a deal. You know, Oregon was a school that he was committed to. There was just a lot of debate as to what his position was going to be. And one of the things that put A&M over the top was that they thought he was going to get a chance to play quarterback. But even when he went to A&M, the thought, I think, behind the scenes was he'll play quarterback for a year. He'll figure out that he's not going to play quarterback. And then we'll move him to another position, and then we'll see what's what from there.
Yeah, the reverse Tannehill.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, right. That was the idea. So tonight, the other interesting part of this, of course, is going to be how many stories do we really get? How much? What I've heard is that all the truth is laid out, that there's nothing hidden, nothing pulled back. It's not like Johnny, this is not unauthorized. Like, I think Johnny sits right down, puts a mic on, and goes. And we talked to Billy Lucci at Texags the other day, and he's in the thing telling stories. So, you know, are we going to get a story about partying before the Cotton Bowl against Oklahoma? Partying before other games people do and don't know about? You know, what are we going to
I have to believe tonight? That this, if it's on Netflix, they've been promoting this thing. Like, it's been getting some run.
Right.
This is like a big deal. I have to believe it's better than like Johnny's watered down. You know, Johnny had a fivesome the night before the Cotton Bowl, but in the story that he tells, I got a good night's sleep the night before.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to do it, and Johnny did it in this documentary, I'm curious to see what gets laid bare.
Like, for me, I was trying to think of it today, like, to put it in perspective for Texas fans, we could understand this comparison. Like, he's an Aggies Bobby Lane.
That's a good one.
That's who he is, right? Now, did he have the kind of pro career Bobby Lane had? Absolutely not. Longhorn fans, I would never, ever besmirch that kind of career.
I think you're selling Johnny short.
But I am not. I wish I was, but I'm not. But it's, you know, that legendary stuff. I think, this is him getting to lean into his kind of Ken Stabler, for the older folks out there, right?
I love that you're romanticizing it. I'm with you. I'm going to watch.
Yeah, because, like those old stories about those Raider teams, that Raider team that showed up to play the Eagles in the Super Bowl, they went to New Orleans and got hammered and partied and went crazy and then beat the Eagles, who were sleeping in early, who had a curfew. So I want to hear some of the legendary stories tonight. But speaking of legendary, I think we might have legendary ready to go.
We do.
Here we go.
The former king of our radio show. I can't stress this enough. Before he ever became nationally known, the voice of college football on ESPN, with all due respect to the other voices out there, before he's doing play-by-play, he was the king of the drive because nobody brought Cowboys talk to us better than Matt Barrie.
Man, it's like I'm going back to my roots. This is the homecoming I didn't know I needed for the last decade until this moment right here.
Man, how are you, you sexy beast?
Yeah, look, I'm just trying to keep up with you guys. I just got off the Sports Center television set, which is why I'm overdressed for your program.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have it any other way. And, I'm going to try and soak up the last, 3 weeks of summer, play a lot of golf, do little amount of work as possible, go through all the motions, and then gear up for week 1 coming in a month.
Matt, all it took for you to return to our show, which literally is day 5, back in business, you just had to become a Big 12 brother.
That's it. That's in fact, when I got he was slipping into my DMs, by the way. Ketchum was like slipping into my DMs during Sports Center. And when he said you two were back together, I was like, what time and date? Let's go. And yeah, leave it to the college football chaos to bring us all back together into, honestly, gentlemen, with all the garbage going on right now, when you just look regionally, the new Big 12 in season 24 is going to look a lot better than some of the other ones that are combining and about ready to work out.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, Matt. I said it earlier. It may not be SEC or Big 10, but I think it's really interesting. I thought it was interesting where they were, but adding those 4 teams, I really dig the idea. And I want you to talk about your school and Texas Tech, because I've always dreamed of those getting together. You guys are known for partying a little. They're kind of known for having some cool West Texas partying. Give me a thought on, we know about Arizona and you're bringing Utah and Colorado, but what about an idea of like that? Hanging, party in Lubbock, party in, in Sun Devil country. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, West Texas and Tempe, we can make that a thing. Like we could get really weird and do like Big 12 after dark and make it a thing. We had the historic game when Patrick Mahomes was the quarterback. It was Arizona State versus Texas Tech in the desert, and that thing went back and forth. I think that was the game that Kalen Ballage, isn't that when he scored 8 touchdowns and set an NCAA record? So we've seen that thing get exciting before. But I'm with you, Chad. Like, let's find some of these new matchups and these fun matchups and some of these things we haven't seen in a while and make it a living, breathing football party and lean into what it's going to be, because those 4 corner states, it's all regionally good. I mean, we've seen Oklahoma State and Arizona State play last year. They're going to play again this year. So we've seen some of those, and I like how those match up. But I'm with you. That's a great one to start at. Texas Tech, Arizona State, a couple of schools that kind of have the same thing. They've had some isolated success throughout the years. And let's find some new matchups and rivalries and make this fun.
Yeah. Personally, Matt, any sadness at all that the Pac-12's going the way of the dodo bird?
Yeah, I hate it. I mean, candidly, I hate it because I grew up in Arizona, grew up in Scottsdale, and went to Arizona State. And growing up, that's all I knew. I mean, some form of the Pacific Coast Conference has been around since 1915. And so there's nothing I hated more growing up than that damn USC fight song. And those arrogant, and they do that for an hour. And I hated that. You were born to hate that. And so a lot of these rivalries, and a lot of this tradition that came out of that conference, and I know people laugh at this, but the academics that came out of that conference and the way that it was just regionally up that Pacific coast, I'm really sad. But I'm also really happy that Arizona State got out ahead of it as quick as they could once Oregon and Washington defected and got in charge of a conference. And gentlemen, think about this for a minute. How many years ago was it where we declared the Pac-12 dead or the Big 12 dead? We declared once Oklahoma and Texas, whoa, what's going to happen? And not only has Yormark come in and said, you know what, I'm going to see things forward a little bit. I'm going to figure out how to keep this thing alive and invite some new schools in. And now with where realignment is now, I think the league is going to be special. I just hate that it came at the cost of the Pac-12.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, it's interesting you say that too, because I grow up with all the different regional, stuff going on. For you, is there anything dumber than the idea that Stanford and Cal would play in the ACC? Just, we've lived through a lot of dumbness. We've talked Cowboys with you because you covered Cowboys for years. Cowboys used to, in NFC East doesn't feel quite right geographically. Right. And I'm a Braves guy, so Braves in the old NL West was dumb. But the idea that Stanford or Cal would throw an ACC logo on their jerseys and go 3,000 miles for a conference game, that's insane.
The Atlantic Coast Conference.
Right. Atlantic. It's in the name. It's in the name.
On the Pacific Coast. From the Pacific Coast.
Come on.
We had this story on SportsCenter today about how there's some talks going on between the two. And if you really want to see how laughable some things can be now, I know if you're on Twitter /X or one of these social media platforms and you see the map that people have created of the new Big Ten, even looking at the absurdity of Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA on the map, and then everybody else in this cluster way over here. And at this point, we've already torn down what makes the sport great. What is that? Regionality and rivalries. Now, some UCLA and USC will still be able to play, and Washington and Oregon, they'll still be able to play like they're 3 games against each other. But it's just absolutely absurd that we're going to get to the point now where everybody is playing schools that aren't even European type travel, 5-6 hours. It's insane that this is where we are. And if those two drop down, I mean, if you look at the Big 12 map, if we're talking about things that don't make sense, and I don't want this to sound the way that it does, but when you look at the new map, UCF, I mean, that looks weird in the Big 12. West Virginia and Cincinnati now look weird in the Big 12. So I guess we've thrown this all out.
Yeah.
Was there ever any concern that in this game of musical chairs, that as an Arizona State guy, from my perspective, I've always felt like, well, they'll be good, they'll be safe. But I would have never thought Stanford and Cal would be on the outside looking in and trying to figure out what they do. In the last few years, just as an Arizona State guy, have you ever worried with, like, am I going to have to subscribe to Apple Plus? Like, how am I going to get my football? What's it been like as a West Coast fan who cares about football, watching the league kind of dissolve slowly but surely because there's not enough caring?
Well, I have the great fortune to be watching Pac-12 After Dark when I'm doing my 16-hour Saturdays in studio because I know that we can't start taping college football final until we do the Pac-12 After Dark halftime, which is typically around 12:30, 1 a.m., right? So I have a love-hate with the Pac-12 at the moment because of how late it keeps us there. But to answer your question, I think when you look at the big picture where the TV rights and the TV money was going, if you look way back when, I wish I had a year on this, maybe 2011, when there was the rumor of Oklahoma and Texas Tech going to the Pac-12. Remember this way back when we first started talking about these super conferences, and we kind of all laughed at the idea that this would actually be a thing. And so fast forward to now, if I'm a Pac-12 alum that's not fortunate enough to work in the industry, but let's just call it a Pac-12 fan. And I'm sitting there and I was like, well, wait, I already subscribed to this, and this. Now I got to figure out how to subscribe to Apple to stream my sports. And this might be the way of the world in 5 years. But right now I could see why it wasn't appealing to the Oregons and the Washingtons, knowing what kind of money's out there. And I think the biggest problem, I get it. I work at ESPN. I get that ESPN and a lot of these other big networks are in on these negotiations. But I just hate that dollars have come between what has made this sport so special. And I hate that dollars. And by the way, I've said it a million. I hope Oregon State plays for the Pac-12 championship this year. Like, they're just getting left out in the cold. Stanford, one of the best academic institutions in the country. By the way, they dominated Olympic sports. Cal Berkeley. You're telling me these traditional institutions can't find a home, and now they may have to go play on Tobacco Road for sports? And that's just, I mean, that's where it is. And it is as exciting as it could be. It's frustrating.
By the way, if you're just jumping in here, yes, that is Matt Barrie. You do not need to adjust your computer. Our hair game, our tie game. The man's got Emmys in the background. Our background game up. Everything is going up. And everybody's jacked to see you, Matt, at Matt Barrie on Twitter. If you are not following, he's getting ready for college football. So, Matt, let me let you be selfish here as an Arizona State fan, because I'll say selfishly, as an Aggie, I'm so happy that the House Divided is back. We're calling this show House Divided. I'm so pumped about that. But I'm with you on the regionality and tradition kind of getting ripped away. So for you, though, as a Sun Devil, like, if it had to be one game, is it Arizona? And so you're glad they're coming with you? Or is there another game that is your game that you're losing with this whole thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like Texas A&M, and the fact that you always wanted that game to happen. And when A&M left for the SEC, there was so much bad blood that they weren't going to have that happening again. So I think while Texas A&M got there first, there's going to still be some of that pettiness between the two. Like, well, we were here first. You came and followed us. Nonetheless, they're going to play again. It's great for college football. Yeah. For me, that'll always be Arizona, just because we don't like Arizona. It's a rivalry thing.
Yeah. So like at least you get that. At least you get that.
We get that. But for me, losing the annual game with USC, because USC, the Pac-12, even going back to the Pac-10, it was always a USC league, no matter what. And people at Washington, Oregon, certainly at Arizona State, they hate hearing that, but it's the truth. It was a USC league. Everybody was chasing Carson Palmer and Mark Sanchez and Matt Leinart and everybody. It was always USC. And the fact that that's the Coliseum, that was one of my favorite road trips when I was at Arizona State. We would love making the roadie out to the Coliseum. One, because we knew it wouldn't be sold out. We could sit anywhere. And two, it was just a great place to go watch a college football game. And so losing that and that fight song and just the annoyance and the arrogance of USC fans, which is what makes them great, that to me, I'm going to miss that one. That one hurt more than any of them.
Yeah. Matt, I'm just curious. Somebody in the chat said, Matt Barrie, my favorite, behind Kirk. Well, how often does that happen?
Why are we ranking? There's no need.
Because it's college sports, we rank everything.
Everything has to be a list?
Right, yeah, everything. Best tailgating spot, best college town, best restaurant, best this. Yeah, look, it's been, I mean, you guys know me. We go back to our days in Dallas when I was at the NBC station out there. And I can't believe it. Like, I stumbled on this the other day when we were just kind of talking about things. Because in this business and in this industry, you just head down sports calendar, right? When you come up for air and realize this will already be my 11th season at ESPN.
Wow. I've
been here 10 and a half years and fortunate enough to be in a great situation with the college football, because it's what I love more than anything. It's been fun, man. It really is fun to just be in this situation where you get to talk this sport full time for a living. Like, I mean, you guys get it. In Dallas, I was there when Gary Patterson was taking that team to the Rose Bowl with Andy Dalton, but you were Cowboys, Mavs, Rangers, Stars. You were very much pro sports. So to be able to, everyone asks about ESPN, I say, well, Sports Center's the job, but I major in college football and golf is how I answer the question. It's just great.
You may have just answered the question that I was going to ask, which is you are, and I got to say, I've taken a lot of pride as like a bystander in watching you climb the ranks of ESPN, because you did our show so many times that it felt like a little piece. Sam Ponder, the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Like when you were the king and she was the queen of our radio show. And it's like, oh, she hosts NFL Countdown. It feels like in a weird way, because Chad will tell you, we had her on the show. She was like a sideline reporter for Fox Directional or something like that.
Yeah.
And nobody knew who she was yet. And now she's big time and super and on the set with Rex Ryan all the time. I'm curious, now that you're Mr. College Football on the national level, if ESPN could give you an assignment, hey, Matt, you've been killing it in college football. we're gonna let you do like some of the other guys and just go somewhere and host for a day, for a weekend, for whatever. Are you going golf? Are you picking like the Masters? What are we doing?
Well, so I've been fortunate enough too to be on our Masters coverage for the last 8 years, and I host our coverage of the PGA Championship every year. And so,
humble brag.
Yeah. So for me, it's just, that's why it's just such a great situation because I'm literally living the thing that I love doing most. And I always tell people, and when you speak to college students and aspiring journalists that want to get into this and do this for a living. And I tell them all, and I mean this wholeheartedly, I've got friends for life from local television. And I wouldn't trade the local television journey that I did for anything in the world. I wouldn't do it because I have so many friends and connections in the media just from doing local television with guys that we had a relationship. And that doesn't change. Some of my best friends are still in Columbia, South Carolina, where I did TV for 3 years. Some of my best friends are still in Dallas that I still keep in touch with. And it was all part of the growth to get to the level. And that's why when you bring up Sam, we talk about all the time, coming from the same area in Arizona and really holding on to the relationships that we've built along the way. Because you know what it is about college sports, and this is why I'll pick it over the NFL 365 days a year. College sports are the epitome of a community. Okay. Because typically, unless you're in a rare situation, we talk about USC and UCLA in a big city, even Arizona State and the Phoenix metropolitan area. Most college towns are smaller towns that live and breathe that school in that particular area. And you know what that does is it brings everybody together. It's the one thing, sense of community and pride. And that's why I've always loved it. That's why I've always loved being a part of it. And doing it at ESPN at this level. I mean, when I call Thursday night college football, but there'll be news on that coming out later with who I'll be in the booth with this year. A little bit of a change this year, just a little tease. I won't give you more than that. But when we go to these schools, I mean, one of the best weekend Thursday night games we had was Coastal Carolina and Appalachian State, because that little burg in Coastal Carolina and Myrtle Beach in that area and how they love football in Appalachian State, and that to me, that's college ball. And I know there's millions of dollars and there's realignment and there's NIL and there's transfer portal. But when you really break it down to the simplest part of Saturday, that to me is what makes it great.
Ooh, that's good stuff. Now I can't wait for kickoff.
Matt, I don't know if you know this. Chad's team lost to Appalachian State last year. That happened.
You know what? There's no need to. Why again? The facts and the logic that's being brought. There's no need to bring facts.
We're talking Appalachian State. That happened.
You know what?
It's video radio. You don't need facts, just opinions.
No, Matt. Here's why the tradition stuff matters to me too. I watched that coach get emotional talking about that win on my field.
Yep,
beating my team. And I felt it for him. Like I hated it, but I watched him and I thought, man, college football is awesome. I really did. I really did.
Like, so go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
When you get these guys, and look, you guys know this with Sark at Texas and Jimbo at A&M and Saban and Brian Kelly. We know there are superstars, Dabo Swinney, there are superstars coaching in this sport. But at the end of the day, when you really go back to their lineage and where they came from, they started at the essence of what is college football. And that's why I root for a guy like Sean Clark at Appalachian State, who played ball there. He was an offensive line, he was an all-conference player. What means more to him than Appalachian State football? None. Yeah. Nothing. And that's, to me, just at the genesis of the sport, it is that, and that's what makes it so special.
Yeah, I hated myself for smiling when he said they're partying in Boone, North Carolina tonight. And I was like, damn, stop smiling.
Right.
Okay, one more from me, Matt. Longhorns, Aggies. Give me your thoughts on. You just said Sark and Jimbo. Give me your thoughts on Sark and Jimbo. How do you think the teams are going to do this year?
Man, I'm going to start with Sark in Texas because, when we talk NFL draft, what's the first thing everybody says? Well, Bijan Robinson's gone. Okay. Well, last time I checked, Texas has always recruited at a very high level. And with what I've seen out of Quinn Ewers, that weight loss and him taking his physical build seriously, something clicked with him. And he understands that this is a year for him. I don't know if it was Arch coming in, the quarterback competition, what it was. But if he just hones in on the talent we saw to him at South Lake Carroll, and he trimmed down, starts studying the playbook a little bit more, I've gone on record of saying that we see Ohio State every single year bring the best wide receiver core to the country. Before that, it was Alabama, Ohio State, top notch. Texas has, in my opinion, a top 3 receiver room in the country. If they can stay healthy, if Quinn can develop into the talent that I know Sark thinks that he has, if the defense can build on last year, you're looking at a team I firmly believe that is perfectly set up to win the Big 12 and contend for a college football playoff. But the one thing they cannot do, the one thing Texas cannot do, is they can't buy into the hype that has yet to be proven, if that makes sense. Because I think all of us that watched the game against Alabama last year, it's easy for us to say if Quinn wouldn't have got hurt, they would have beaten Alabama. That very well may be. But programs that are ready for the ascent find a way to win those games. And if they can do that this year, if this team can find a way to believe that they can win games late based on talent, gentlemen, sky's the limit for Texas in their final year in the Big 12. And I think the best team top to bottom in the Big 12, even though Kansas State returns a lot of their players from last year. On the Texas A&M side, you're talking about a school that I think over the past, 3, 4, 5 years, they've been in the top 7 of recruiting every year, if not 1 and 2. I believe that bringing in Bobby Petrino could be the difference between Texas A&M always being a team of potential and being a team that you have to contend with. Now, I readily admit it's combustible, waiting to happen. But what better offensive mind could you bring in that's got skins in this league and say, you know what? You go coach ball, Jimbo, concentrate on being a head coach and get everything you can out of these 5-star kids we've been hearing so much about. Because I brought up Gary Patterson earlier. I'll take schools that find a way. We were talking about Mark D'Antonio a couple of days ago. What was he known for? Taking 2 and 3 stars and developing them. Okay, Jimbo's got 5 stars coming out of his ears. Well, have they been developed properly? You could argue probably not yet. They've had a couple of guys that have gone on to the league, but they've got enough guys coming back with pedigree that if they just find a way to find a system that works and sinks in, you can't find a tougher division in any sport than the SEC West if Texas A&M finally lives up to what we believe they can be. And I'll tell you this, if that marriage works, if Bobby and Jimbo work, hell, who knows what could happen if those two get together.
Matt, I'll leave you with this. We'll leave you with this 20-second question. Do you have and I won't hold you to this. You can change it at a later date.
Great.
Your top 4 for the playoffs this year at this moment look like what?
As of right now, yes. Georgia's a lock. Georgia's an absolute lock because of their schedule. They're getting in. Even if they lost in the SEC championship to the team out in a Western division and the SEC West, they're getting in. I really like LSU. I think they've got enough coming back, and they did that under year 1 with Brian Kelly. What do you think year 2 is going to look like? I firmly believe that a Pac-12 team in the final year of its existence is going to get into the college football playoff.
Ooh.
If, it's a big if, because it tends to be an if with Lincoln Riley. If the defense, if they show some semblance of a defense and punch Utah back in the face, because Utah smack you every time. I'll put USC in the college football playoff. This is the one that I have the right to put an asterisk on. And I think Michigan is getting back in. I think Michigan's getting in for a 3rd year in a row. I think Florida State is going to be hunting. I think Clemson's going to be hunting. I think Ohio State's going to be hunting. But if I'm told right here, right now, 2 teams from the SEC, Michigan and USC.
Simple as that. I like it.
There it is.
Matt, can't say it enough, man. It's been too long. Can we get you, once the season starts and you're doing like 16-hour Saturdays and stuff like that, is there a best time for me to approach you to say, hey, it's Bama, Texas week. Can we get you at some point this week? Is it okay to do that? Or are you so slammed?
I like, this is like when you lost your high school lover over the years and you finally found a way to reunite with. That's what this is. It's like we ran into each other at a grocery store. And we're like, how have you been? What's going on in life? Yeah, you guys know how to find me. I don't hit the road. So my Sports Center schedule is Monday, Tuesdays during the fall. We're moving time slots because we got another show coming in before us now. But Mondays and Tuesdays before I travel, if you guys want to get on here and talk Texas and Texas A&M and some good SEC Big 12, you guys know where to find me. I'll do anything for you.
Ooh, how about that? How about that?
Matt Barrie, awesome ESPN. Stuff. Matt, thank you so much. Chad, any final words?
Hey, man, it's just I'm so glad to be able to see you as well as talk to you. Best of luck with everything. Enjoy getting that college football season started, man, and just so happy for you. Every time I see you, every time I hear you, whatever you're doing, I always know you're having a great time. You're one of my favorites. You're a lot of folks' favorites. Thank you so much for the time again.
It means a lot, guys. And also congratulations on getting the show back. This is the most dominant duo people didn't know they needed until they had it again.
There you go. Thank you, brother.
Matt Barrie, ESPN signing off. Barrie out.
Ketch, let me tell you, I'm so happy about the possibility of all this stuff, but I never thought about, hey, can Ketch figure out a way to not only can we get the band back together, but could he get me a situation where I not only get to talk to Matt Barrie again, I get to see Matt Barrie? Are you kidding me?
The most underrated aspect of the show that you and I did from 2008 and 2012 is that our guests were bangers.
Hey, you know what weird question popped in my head as we're talking to Matt Barrie? In 2023, would Bomani Jones even know who we were?
Oh, look, Bomani and I text not all the time.
Would Bomani respond?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The thing is, there's a chance because Bomani will hit me up like twice a year.
Yes.
And it's always UT football related.
Nice.
So it wouldn't shock me if in the next 24 hours, Bomani sends me a text that's like, we getting Simmons, right? Or really? I'll get a text in like the next month where it'll be like, Quinn Ewers isn't going to suck, right? Like he loves Texas football.
We need to see if we can make that happen, if for no other reason, to retell the story of how Bomani Jones led to me being banned by Ric Flair. That's what we need to do.
Oh, God, I forgot about that.
Remember that story? Yes. Bomani got me blackballed by the Nature Boy.
Which is like the most heartbreaking thing of all time.
It was one of the most heartbreaking moments of my life, and I know he didn't mean to do it. And my everything in my soul told me I shouldn't have done it. I should not have tried to call when I called and whatever. And in the end, I was right, and I should have just waited. I should have not done it. But yeah, it was Bomani. But I'd love to talk to him.
My hope is to have Bomani on in the next week or two. I have not yet reached out to him yet to find out what his schedule looks like.
And hey, obviously we just found out Matt Barrie is not too big time to remember us. Any chance that the Queen, Sam Ponder, remembers us? Any chance?
Do you want me to tell you the truth?
Always.
This is the worst thing one of the worst things I've ever done.
Oh no. Would you try to cancel Sam Ponder? What'd you do?
Sam got mentioned when Sam got married to Christian Ponder.
Oh no.
It was a fast arrangement.
Uh-huh.
You know, like they hadn't been dating very long.
And you commented?
I made a joke that maybe she was preggo.
Oh, come on, dude. You did that?
And she saw it.
Uh-oh.
And then she sent me a direct message and she was like, I thought we were friends.
Oh, dude.
And I've never felt like a worse human being in my entire life.
Okay, so this is your opportunity though. This is your opportunity to make it right. To tell her we're back together and say, hey, we just want to reminisce. Tell her we talked to Matt and just say, Sam, we want to talk a little NFL. You know, you've gone to all these, hey, let's do it.
I mean, I will reach out. The last time we communicated with each other, she indicated that everything was cool. but she ain't following me on Twitter anymore.
Oh, don't see. It doesn't always have to be that. It doesn't always have to be that. Just as long as she'll respond, and we'll get it done. I would love to have that conversation.
I mean, she's been married to Christian Ponder for a long time. Yeah. I've been carrying the guilt of that, and I'm not trying to make me the victim, right? Like I said something, but I'm just telling you, I have a soft heart. I'm a kind-hearted person.
I can't believe
do that, and then to be called out on it, I've just never felt like a worse human being in my entire life.
I do love the fact that she did call you out. Just from her perspective, I love the fact that she called you out on that, because the people that know Sam Ponder know she is, she's a religious woman, and I'm sure she was looking at that time as she had fallen in love with the soulmate of her life, and it was as pure as it could be. And Geoff Ketchum is saying, she might be preggo. I just love that she decided to just give you I thought we were friends.
And she didn't hit me with, you're a jerk, I'm never talking to you before again. Right. It was like, man, I thought we were friends.
She hit you with the, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. That's what she did.
Oh, which is a very motherly thing to do. Like,
exactly. She pre-mommed you because Sam Ponder was not only the queen of the drive, she's now the mom of NFL, game day, NFL Countdown on ESPN. So yes, because she has to be the mom for, Rex and that crew. She's always been that type. She's always had that motherly thing, and she was just giving you that motherly moment. I'm just disappointed, Ketch. I'm not mad.
I feel bad now.
Yeah. But the bottom line is, I'm so excited that we talked to Matt Barrie. That was awesome. And if that doesn't get you ready for college football, I don't know what does. Listening to his passion, and you said it when we were getting ready for the show today, Ketch, the Arizona State connection, the Big 12 thing. Let's hear what he has to say about realignment. I agree with him on all the stuff that's been ripped apart, but there's still enough of that in college football that just makes it so damn great. And I like that his school gets to keep its rival, the ultimate rival, even if they don't get USC. And I'm pumped now. I mean, I was already pumped, ready to go for college football, but Matt Barrie, getting to hear him call games and golf and all that stuff is fantastic.
No, Ben. Nice try.
Oh, dude, Ben, if Ketch grows his hair out, Sam Ponder won't talk to anybody. Well, Sam Ponder won't even respond if she sees the hair.
Look, maybe there's an approach that I can take to make this right, but I don't think she's going to want to hear, Sam, I'm growing out my hair for you.
Hey, here's what you do. Use what we just experienced. Let Matt Barrie be your guy. He just told you they talk. They're both Arizona people. Let Matt, hey, Matt, is there any way you can?
No, because I don't want Matt to know it happened, because then Matt may never. I'm embarrassed by it, man.
Okay. Yeah.
This therapy to bring it up, but that's a step too far for me. Jimmy, thank you very much. And just so you know, we're just getting started on the guest front. Like I hope that's kind of what. I don't think we got our due back in 2008 and 2012, because a lot of our guests hadn't hit it big yet. But I feel like we had about 20 guests that we had on all the time that are not now national celebrities.
Yeah, we had some great guests. I was listening to the last episode from 2012 the other day, and a few of them called in. Lance Zierlein, who's now doing incredible work with NFL Network. What's Daniel Jeremiah?
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Move
I'll get Daniel on the show for sure.
Daniel was awesome, and we grabbed him right at the beginning of his ascension.
We were his first radio show.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Watching him, listening to him develop, and then watching him go off and do all that cool stuff. Yeah, that was great. Beto Duran out in LA, and all the stuff that he's been doing now. He kind of went off. He was covering Lakers and stuff and LA teams. Then he went off into boxing and was covering that. And man, we had some great guests, but that's awesome, man, to see Matt Barrie again after all this time.
We'll wrap it up real quick. We were Daniel Jeremiah's first guest. Like, first time we ever did a radio show, it was with us.
First show, yep.
I was also the first radio show when I worked at Yahoo Sports Radio for Shams Charania.
Really?
Mr. NBA Scoop. He was like a freshman at Syracuse.
That's awesome.
And my producer was like, hey, We got this new NBA guy for you. We need to break him in. He's like the next big thing for Yahoo Sports covering NBA basketball. I was Sham's first show on his way to class.
Yeah, I love all that stuff. Like I'm hoping this week it's going to be really tough. At some point, I would love to get Haley Sutton on, who covers the Cowboys, and shout out to my former radio partner, Isaiah Collier, who reached out to her. We made a connection with her, interviewed her 2 or 3 different times. She's awesome. She's one of those rising stars, man. She's the host. She's going to be on the sideline Saturday night. Everybody watch the preseason game. Haley's going to be on the sideline. She does great work. DallasCowboys.com just did a cool piece on DeMarvion Overshown. People need to check out. So it's those kind of guests I love getting, especially when they then go on. Like you said, you kind of feel like you were a part of it in a way where you're like, whoa, we talked to them back in the day. So, and it's nice enough of Matt to not forget about a show like ours, not to forget about you saw those Emmys in the background, Ketch. Those Emmys can be loud. Those Emmys give you the right to say no to us a lot. So he could have said, he could have said, I don't know who you are and been cool. But no, he was cool with us. So we appreciate it.
We got to go because I think Blake's going to have a heart attack if we go too close.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay.
We got to end the show. Guys, it was fun today. Thank you. We'll be back tomorrow. Myself, Chad Hastings, he's live in West Texas.
Yeah, baby.
But now he's not live because we're saying sayonara. Have a good rest of the day. Chad, hit him with it.